It's pretty up there for me too.
It was a surprise.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Smudcast number 704. Mushoku Tensei, a redemption story or not? That's a interesting question. I'm trying to remember where in the story he's trying to redeem himself, either from his past life or he, as a result of his past life of not being able to do much because of his bullying, now he has the opportunity, or is it something in his current life, like with his family? I don't remember. Is it looking for his mother, maybe? I don't know what's the redemption arc here, but we'll see what this person thinks. Redemption stories are awesome. One of my favorite plots. So this could work. I don't know. I haven't thought about that because I just saw it as a guy who's trying to find his parents, or his family, rather, after they got separated. And he decides to not take a break from that, but to figure out what he's doing and how to do it better, because it's kind of like this cataclysmic event where this giant teleportation explosion happened, where everyone in a certain area just got teleported all over the continent, and they have to find each other back, and he's on that quest. So
yeah, the big problem of the story of the world, that is great. I like that one. I am not sure whether he is seeking redemption really. It's rather that he has a better form of support in this life.
Yes, and he has the ability to better himself and to help others. And you could argue his inability to communicate effectively as a person in this life shows, because he's super polite, he's always formal, and he doesn't know how to. That shows off in the first few episodes of this season. So,
and he had the luck that here, standing up against bullies, protecting someone weaker, did not lead to absolute soul-crushing repercussions for him, because it still happened as a child.
The way I would describe it instead of a redemption story is that he has another chance to make the best out of his life, because in the previous one he basically wasted it. He had chances that he never took, obviously because of like his past that gave him all this trauma, that he knew that he had chances, but he was too scared and all those things. But it's definitely him trying to live a better life. It's not necessarily a redemption, I would say, but he's also not an evil character.
Yeah, I don't see
where
the term
hero, but
redemption would apply.
He's not evil either. He's just trying to be the best version of himself.
And the
his only flaw is this Japanese joke that they can't seem to keep out of things for the past decade or so or more, where they have to keep the his lewdness in as he gets to the other world.
Yeah, that's the only.
That is a bit disturbing.
Yeah, this is the problem that the I don't know who made this argument or doesn't like the show as a result, because he has this fascination with his maid's panties when he was a kid, and because he has the mind of an adult, that obviously if you like women and you're 1 year old, you're going to be playing silly games as a kid because you're innocent and everyone thinks you're innocent when you're in fact not. So that's sort of the this guy's a pervert, trapped in a baby's body and blah, blah, blah. So it's like, yeah, but that's played off as a joke. Even the recent episode,
it's not just a joke. It is in earnest addressed throughout the story.
Well, even in the second last
it becomes
episode,
a story element.
Yeah, he it's a shrine to him. It's a holy object, these panties. And it was so funny.
At least he's embarrassed by it later on.
He's protective of it, but at the time where he's doing it, he captured these two, I think these two wolf, I can't remember, cat girls, whatever they are, in school, and he shows them the holy relic, and they're like, "What the hell are you showing? What is this?" But it's treated as this super secret, awesome thing, like, "Oh my god, this is so important." And everyone, I'm like, what is happening? Like, why is this? There's nothing special. They're just clothing. So it's played off as a joke to me. So people could interpret it as otherwise, but
So something I was curious about before we start this video, because that's going to be interesting. What do all of you think of Rudius as a character?
Interesting. He's very interesting because he's trying to do the right thing, which is find his family. And there's a god telling him, well, you're not perfect, but maybe you should do this. And then there's other characters telling him what to do. So he's always second guessing himself.
I find the man god way more disturbing than his panty fetish.
He is weird and creepy. I'm like, what is up with this dude? Is he playing games?
The CGI helps with that, and I think it's on purpose.
The face is freaking me out. His attitude, like he's a Japanese kind of weird trickster god. You're like, I don't get this guy. He is weird. But Rudy is
man
one
god,
of those...
honestly. He comes across like the Full Metal Alchemist, the being that is next to the door of truth.
No. That being makes way more sense and is way more grounded. The man god here in Mushoku Tensei, that guy, I'm not even sure he knows where he's standing.
It is creepy, yeah, because he's so quixotic. He's so... Is he being serious? Like, maybe you should go to the school. It's like, what do you mean? Well, maybe it'll help you with your problem. Like, what? Just tell him what to do.
It's very intentionally played to be like kind of creepy and off-putting. Like they even used like badly looking 3D on him to make him look uncanny, like on purpose.
Yes. I also thought. Did I admit to that? Because I thought that's what they were going for.
It was on purpose, yes. So that he looks off-putting.
That is a smart move, because that also fits with I have a disturbing vision. Everything looks wrong. What the fuck is that guy? It's great. Good choice. Good artistic choice.
Yeah, that's the thing.
It's even it's like sort of kind of mentioned in the anime itself when like Rudius looks at him, and he's like, I can't really see what you look like. Like Rudius himself can't really perceive what we see. Like he doesn't even see a figure.
I think it's very entertaining, and every moment of the show, even the episode where he is drunk and he just starts rambling off about that girl because he couldn't properly make her happy in bed or whatever. He he just starts getting off, and this girl just goes up and slaps him. It's this really downer part of the story, and they just go with it. They just keep running. Like, okay, so he just lost his entire party because he was bad-mouthing this girl in public when he was drunk in the middle of the morning or whatever. And they just go to another party. He just joins another party that he doesn't get along with too well, but it's like a tough love sort of relationship with the leader of that party. So there's always something to keep the story going that makes sense. That isn't like, well, how did he wind up with this guy, even though he hates his guts? It's like, oh, he has nowhere else to go. And this guy wants him to join, so it makes some sense. And then he's doing amazing shit. Like, he's just blowing dragons away and fighting, and everyone's like, holy crap, this guy's awesome. So there's like this holding back of what he can do in public. Plus, he doesn't want to get too much attention, so there's that. But he also wants to make money so he could fund his quest for his mother and his family. So
it's also a crisis of confidence for Rudy with the ED thing, that he's constantly trying to prove himself, but also he feels put down due to the thing with Eris at the end of last season.
Yeah, that was the classic miscommunication between men and women. The girl leaves the bed, and the guy thinks he was inadequate when it's the opposite. And the girl's very, very bad at communicating that because she's just a girl. She doesn't know any better. So she goes off on that one quest.
And it's mainly all due to her immaturity.
Exactly, and it makes perfect sense, and that's why it's so good, because it's like, oh, this is exactly what this character would do in this situation.
And then you also remember that before Rudius, she couldn't even read and write and all these things. So of course she writes down like the bare minimum that causes a miscommunication. Like it all plays together.
Yeah.
And that's what aside from the general quality and attention to detail that I like about this show, like you can see this in this starting frame here with the book. And the animation quality, the social consequences and behaviors of characters, their actions, they make more sense and are more believable than in most anime. They do not exaggerate
totally
too
agree
much.
with this.
Hmm?
I really agree with this.
Yeah,
And this is why I hate like the opposite argument that is going to come up in this video, where people are like, "Oh, there's no consequences for anything that the characters do."
It's all
It's like that is completely wrong.
It's rather grounded in realistic consequences in most cases, because in reality, when a kid does something really, really dumb, or like he does, well, you don't explode into the ceiling and punch people through the roof and then they disappear like Team Rocket. In reality, it's just okay, that was weird. Don't do that again. And we won't talk about this, and then we act as normal. That's what normally happens. Where you have the kind of opposite of that is with actual kind of sort of creepy, scary comic relief characters like that that Noble that the his first teacher girl is at, who actually does sneak up on her and tries to fondle her.
Oh, yeah,
and then gets slapped for that.
Yeah, when he always gropes her and he just burns him.
Yeah, and this also shows in contrast that Rudy is not that kind of pervert. He has the faults, but he doesn't really act on it that way.
Well,
the way
he has the opportunity a couple times.
Like the way I described it, especially when like some people on Discord talked about it, the way I described like Rudy and his perspective on women is that it's like very immature. It's very childish view of sexuality, because he's like, oh, boobs, I must grab. Oh, panties, I must look. But he never actually does anything further than this. Like he never tries to actually like rape anybody or something, because that doesn't even come to his mind.
He's the normal, insecure, inexperienced
like
guy.
People forget that this guy was like a shut-in for like what, 30 years? Like he hasn't even interacted with any people before his reincarnation.
Right. And aside from the sexual issues that people had with the first season, rather, this current season, for whatever reason, I didn't even know about this till right now, the controversy is that they showed the depiction of slavery in this world, which is not uncommon in a lot of these isekai storylines. I don't see what the major problem was.
I'm gonna talk about that later too, because like I've actually looked at what the author said and what happened, and they're completely taking him out of context. It's really bad.
I did not see any such any issues with any of those kinds of parts of the story.
In regards to the slavery thing, people forget that we already had that in the first season.
Yeah,
and exactly. Rudy actually prevented slavery. People just like to ignore this. He literally prevented slavery in the jungle. But people are just like, no, he's buying a slave now, so he's bad.
Are they trying to make a Shield Hero incident out of this?
They're basically trying to say that Rudy shouldn't have bought a slave.
Well, now he can free the slave.
Everyone was in agreement that the slave was very happy. She had a new life. She had a new job. Everything was great. Okay, I guess it's bad.
No, don't free the slave. Don't buy the slave. Okay, don't buy the slave. Die, I guess. Yeah, don't buy the slaves to free the slaves.
Just don't free them. Let them die. That's way morally better, I guess. Yeah, when you're a morally righteous person, you just let people die.
Yeah, and he got the worst, not the worst slave, but the cheapest one that no one wanted, no one was looking at. She almost was giving up on life, and boom, he gave her new life, gave her a job, gave her purpose, and helped out his friend who was struggling with the passion of his life that he could never achieve because he just wasn't very good at the earth magic, I think. So nothing was negative about that entire scene. It was all positive. So I don't know what the problem was. Anyway.
But he's buying a slave. He's contributing to the slave market. He's such a bad person.
This is the argument that we give to the Americans whenever it's like, why did you just buy the slaves? Why did you have to have a war over them? So anyway, let's get on with the video. It's almost 60 minutes long. It has a weird upvote downvote ratio. 470 upvotes, 102 downvotes. So, 80% roughly upvoted.
Very quickly notice why.
Yeah, so someone's not, or a bunch of people aren't too happy with what he has to say. I'm kind of curious what that is, because I think this is an excellent anime. It's my favorite of the season, or the year even. So, yeah, let's get going.
Mushoku Tensei is one of the other anime airing currently, with Season 1 being pretty highly received. I, anime YouTuber number 3 million, however, have multiple issues with the series that I don't really feel like I can ignore anymore, especially with recent author comments about certain serious topics. I'm going to preface this video by saying that I understand Mushoku Tensei is a very, very popular series, and that my comments within will likely be highly controversial. If you enjoy Mushoku Tensei, that's perfectly fine. This video is my subjective opinion about a piece of fiction I consumed. Now that the obligatory subjectivity preamble that I shouldn't have to repeat so often is out of the way, what is Mushoku Tensei? Our protagonist, whose name we do not know before getting isekai'd, was a mid-30s NEET who was ruthlessly bullied throughout his high school life, causing him to become a shut-in. After decades of living this lifestyle, and after the death of his parents, he was kicked out by his siblings for not even attending his parents' funeral, and after wandering the streets, he was killed by a vehicle trying to save someone in the street. Cue Rudeus Greyrat. Now, one thing we have to get out of the way first is that he still retains the mental capability of his 30-year-old self despite being reborn. Not only does he form fully coherent thoughts about his surroundings, as a literal newborn baby, the anime doubles down on this by having the voiceover be old Rudy's voice. Rudy, despite being
Only
in
in
a
his
body, is a 30-year-old man. People point out that his
We have the first point of contention. So he is one of the people that says Rudy is not actually a child now. He's still a 30-year-old man. So what do we have to say about that?
This is the
Do we agree?
This is the typical
we disagree?
isekai scenario.
Well, he can have the thoughts of an adult, yes, but his body still overrides that, and his mind is obviously limited in what it can do.
So I'm gonna kind of refer to
similar to the less.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's similar to the less explored part of Tanya the Evil.
So I'm gonna pull up something because this is a pinned comment that he made, where he clarifies what he meant by this, and it's a pretty weird view on how he views like the reincarnation aspect of all of this. Let me find it. This one. So here I'm gonna gloss over a bit of the beginning part where he says he bans people that disagree with him, which actually happened to me, by the way. He banned me from the comments because I disagreed with him. He also banned me on his Discord, but that's another story. Here he says, wait, let me find it in the middle. If you lived 30 years of your life and somehow had a successful brain transplant into a child's body, that does not make you a child. So he views this as his brain was transplanted into a child's body. Even though what's very obviously always the case, especially with Asian stories, is that not his brain didn't carry over. It's his soul. His soul was reincarnated.
There's a bigger problem. There's a bigger problem when he takes this too literal, too materialistic, because when he phrases it like that and says, "Oh, because of that, he's not a child." Well, still a child's body. Because with his argumentation, he would be the one justifying, well, pedophilia is okay if you put the brain of an adult into the child's body.
Well, here it gets even worse. He says, I don't care if he spent most of his life shut inside. And if you think that is a foolproof argument, this can be applied to real-life sexual relationships and is not an argument you want to go down.
Is that anything to do with that?
This is such a weird argument.
Well, we've had stories where I recall one of my more favorite animes of last year, which is still an ongoing manga. It's called The World's Finest Assassin Gets Reincarnated, and this old man dies on a plane and gets reincarnated as a baby, I think, within an aristocratic family. And he has supposedly sexual relations with some of the slaves, people he saved, which happen to be girls, and he grows up with them. He trains them. They become powerful. They become skilled. They have obviously a strong connection with him. And he's always going back into his mind thinking about, well, what's the best way to do this or that. So it's kind of like the experience of the isekai person is there, but that's it. It's just, oh, this is my reality. This is who I am now. It's not, I'm only upstairs and everything else is a facade. They fully embrace and accept that this is their lives, and they know that. So it doesn't, like if we had the capacity to transfer consciousness to other bodies, yes, maybe your dreams would live on, your aspirations, like I want to better my conditions for everyone else. Maybe you're altruistic, you want to better your community, but you are now in that body. That is your life. That is the new world you're in. The way you experience the world will be completely different because you have a new body, you have new senses, you have new organs, your ganglia, your connections to the rest of your body. You have magic powers. You're developing those. You can fly. You can do all kinds of crazy things in these places.
The main question is simply, how do you conduct yourself in that situation? And as an aside, you can say that if he's been a shut-in since high school, he's not matured any further. He's stuck at that mental development.
He hasn't met people for 30 years. He hasn't talked to anybody. He hasn't learned anything because he only played games. Like, all his knowledge that he relies on is just from things he had in his room. He never stepped out of his room. Like, all of these things. Like, I think, like, the disregard of the fact that he hasn't seen anybody, hasn't done anything for 30 years. Like, you can't just say, oh yeah, that's a perfectly functional adult. No, of course.
Well, only an unempathetic extrovert would gloss over that.
Yeah, it's like, oh, of course, like, you can put this guy in society. I'm sure it's gonna work great. Like,
plus
you can't just pretend that he's a normal adult now.
Yeah, plus his
Basically, a do-over is exactly what he needed.
Right, plus his upbringing now is a lot different. He's a gifted child. He is stronger than most adults. He is traumatized still by his bullying, but he's slowly getting over that. So now he knows how to deal with it better. And he's on a quest. So he has all this motivation, all these reasons to act better and act for people in a better way, despite having roadblocks and stumbling when he can't do proper behavior with women.
Yeah, and it's not just going smoothly. There are horrifying setbacks of life that incorporate death right in his face. Couple times.
Yeah, it's a fantastic story filled with conflict of different type every episode, and it works so well. The new arc is pretty good. I think there's the offshoot with Eris. She's doing her own story in the mangas, which are I only read a few of them. I don't know if they've come out anymore, but there's been a few where she's training and getting better at sword fighting. So it's obviously a popular series. The writer knows what they're doing. And it's entertaining. Every episode feels different. It's really good. I like it. Anyway.
For
real quick,
example.
find something, because like the author actually had like he said something in an interview before the anime came out of how he views Rudius, and I actually think that this is very profound how he views the character, and it actually shows that people that are his detractors don't really appreciate the character that's being written. And he said this. He said, of course, I have no issue with criticizing Rudius at the beginning stage. And it's up to you to decide whether you don't want to see the story because of that. With that said, if there's someone like Rudius close to you, and that person were to have even a slight change of heart and try to start over, I sincerely hope that you won't abandon them on the spot.
That's the
author's thought. Yeah, and I think this is actually crazy when you think that all of these detractors would abandon people like that on the spot.
And
if there's a bad person that's trying to change, they just ignore them. They don't want to help them.
And as far as I know, people like those detractors, they have way more blemishes on their souls than this shut-in, or most shut-ins.
All we have to do is look at the plot. It's a story of a son looking for his mother and his family. Even though we know he comes from another world, This is his life. He's accepted his life as a member of this family, and he's taking the responsibility to go do that. So you could argue, well, he's just some guy in a past life stuck in a room. Like, well, no, not anymore. He's more than that. So I don't think people see the full picture.
It's just like this inability to look past the reincarnation aspect. It's like, no, he's still a 30-year-old guy. It's like, but
even then, what he does is improve constantly, and he makes morally good choices.
Sometimes he makes bad choices, and that's okay.
Yeah, but he does not even capitalize on his opportunities to have sex. So he's not the kind of sex creep that they try to portray.
This is actually something that I always find crazy. Is like Whisp. I don't know how recently you watched it, but like from episode 1 to episode 8, you see a very clear progression on how he capitalizes on sexual moments. Like he increasingly, or more like decreasingly, acts different towards Ares. Like at the beginning, he's like, oh, he's trying to undress her, he's groping her, and then like episode 7, episode 8, he starts to like her, and he sees her sleeping, and he tries to reach out, and he stops himself because he's starting to feel bad because he's like, I like this person, I don't want to hurt her.
Well, he's basically just from the outside. He's basically just like a very weird child. There are children who are just doing weird stuff. They don't understand what they're doing. It even fits with the developmental stages that he is extremely subject to his impulses, and then learns to control them.
He's basically stuck in like what, when he was 15, 16. He never progressed from that.
Yeah, but that means he is growing up.
Well, I do like the fact
exactly. He's moving past.
I do like the fact that he actually addresses sex even when he encounters Alina Lise or whatever her name, Alina, where she's pretty much, she needs to have sex or she'll die because that's her curse. And he's like, I wish I could take part in this, but because of his problem, he can't. Which is miles ahead of almost every isekai or heroic character I've ever read, because they are so ambivalent towards, well, most of them are ambivalent towards sex. And he's like, no, I'm a normal guy aside from my sexual issue, and I think about these things. It's like, thank you narrator or first person character for telling me, yeah, I do like women, I am attracted to this character, I want to have sex with him. Thank you. Like, that's all I want.
Yeah, he's written like a human, not like a caricature like other.
Because all these heroes and all these manga,
it's not just him, it extends to the entire cast.
Yes.
They cry, they get sad about their family, and they're looking for each other. This is the one guy I'm like, hey, I would feel the same way. I would exactly feel this way.
Yeah, even I'm sure there's a name for the trope. The secret, mysterious, powerful swordsman guy. He gets later into his party. Even that one is written great. And more nuanced and with little ideas and tricks around to play with.
Yeah, and one of the examples,
like I'm thinking back on season 1, it's like the Paul story with him becoming a better father. That was great. The whole like cheating conflict where Rudius actually solves the problem that everyone can kind of move past it. Then the story with Roxy and her parents where she's like disabled, so she can't use telepathy, and it makes her ostracized and all that. And her parents learn language so they can talk to her. Like, all of these things are really great.
Yeah, like
those are really creative ideas and problems. And man, I completely forgot the whole flawed family thing.
Oh yeah, I mean,
the family thing is great.
Look at the nobles. Was it Ghislaine, the one who teaches Eris the sword? Like, it makes perfect sense that a member of this race who are not very intelligent, but even if it's a female, she's skilled enough with the sword that she can get by, which is exactly what you do with female characters.
Yeah, like with Ghislaine's story, where it's like, oh, they kicked her out because she was like so violent and she couldn't do anything. And then now she's like a sword king, and she's like really good. And Rudius teached her how to do math and how to cast magic and all these things. Like the characters in the story constantly learn and improve.
Yeah, it's a wonderful story. The characters have depth, and even the side characters, which we don't see after a season or so, do have their own storylines still developing. And
many of them could do well as main characters.
well, that's the thing. In their own, with Eris's story, she has her own manga now, so it's like, oh, and she's with Ghislaine, and they're on their sword quests of becoming stronger, which is exactly what the subplot.
Wait, you mean she has her own storyline, or she has her own manga?
It's both. It's the subplot where
she gets she gets her own volumes.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah, they did that. They kept. I don't know how much there is. I only read a few, but yeah, no, they develop her, so they're going to probably connect that back into the main plot someday. I don't know, but they're developing it because the character was so liked. And
okay, cool.
Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen with the third character, the guy with the spear. I can't remember his name, but he had all. That was a redemption arc. He had all kinds of things going. So
like his story was also incredibly interesting. Like the warrior of the ancient clan who had like a bad history that wasn't even true, and he's trying to redeem the name of his people. And Rudius is like, damn, this reminds me of how I was bullied and how people shit talked me as well. I want to help this person, and it's like, yes, that's great.
Yeah, he gave when he went on his own journey to dispel the prejudice, basically. I get these Lone Wolf and Cub vibes all of a sudden.
Yes.
Like lone samurai traveling.
When they have like this moment in the cave where Richard kills that one guy because he kicked Rudius, and then Rudius is like terrified because of course he's like a normal person. He's like, what the hell? He just killed someone like that. And then he's like, Richard, you can't just kill people. You can't do that.
Yeah, and also that people die in this world.
Yes.
It's not just happy fantasy adventure with flying numbers.
That Rudius doesn't just like ignore things like life and death. Like he doesn't want to kill people if he doesn't have to.
Mm-hmm.
And especially if it's for something like getting kicked.
Yeah, and before we go on, I wanted to bring in a counter example to the whole sex creep thing, and that is many years ago, decades probably at this point, I saw a film adaptation of Don Juan, and in that story, Don Juan the Womanizer, he was already described by his mother as always giving her lewd looks just as a babe when she was bathing him. And the difference is that's a person from the start. That's not an isekai story. That is weird. That is creepy. Here we at least have some things. And Don Juan turned into a sex creep, more or less. Quite a lot, actually.
Okay, let's get on with the video. He brought up this slavery controversy, which I don't think is a real thing, but we'll see what he has to say.
Now, because he holds no attraction to his new mother, despite not actually being his mother. Which is true, but does not necessarily undo that
she
he
is also his mother,
using the same inner voice, and having the maturity and intellect of someone with a fully developed 30-year-old brain. He uses his fully developed brain and natural talent he was seemingly born with to excel in magic. He goes along this journey being unbelievably skilled and having people essentially flock to his existence. Rudy is, in my opinion, a power fantasy. However, I do not think that is an inherently bad thing. There are a lot, and I mean a lot, of power fantasy art pieces out there. Now, a lot of people may have specific criticisms, like how power fantasy characters are boring or whatever, but there is nothing intrinsically wrong with it. Sometimes you want to just sit down and watch a guy be good at everything. The issues for me arise with everything after. My primary issue with Mushoku Tensei is how it is billed as a story about this, at this point, mid-40-year-old man getting to live the life he didn't get to live.
Oh, he's mid-40!
And trying to redeem himself. Don't just take my...
Dude, please stick to one age. He was mid-30 before, now he's mid-40?
He keeps growing. He grows 10 years in 1 year.
But this is the argument of
Well,
any
so
isekai.
this is also the issue
Because the boy is now 10, he's allegedly 45 now?
I was actually just about to bring this up. This is another issue I have with this viewpoint. If you actually believe that, or if you view it as him still being his old age, he's just gonna keep getting older. Like he's gonna be like 20 or something in the reincarnation, then he's actually gonna be like 60 or 70. Like how often, like where's the line? He's gonna be 80 when he's 30. Like
Yeah,
but he's not. He's subject to the biology of his body. Nonetheless, that includes his brain. This brain is developing. So if you look at these things with too much hard physics, then you destroy. You can't have any suspension of disbelief.
I just want to know
the part where that needs to be there is this is a boy. He has the knowledge and personality from his old life.
Yeah, but
other than that, his brain is that of a child.
I just want to
Still.
know
that knowledge isn't even vast. It's the knowledge of someone that didn't do anything for 30 years.
I want to know what the main argument is, because you could make this about any isekai story where we have someone being reincarnated or transferring to another world and into a new body. So
Like, I'm just really stuck on this idea that he just says, "Oh, he's 30," but he completely ignores that he didn't grow up normally, like someone who's just normally becoming 30. Like he has never worked, he has never seen anybody, he has never talked to anybody, he hasn't learned anything because he stopped going to school. Like
He only sat in his room and played video games.
Yes. He never even left the room, which is why his room is full of trash by the time of episode 1, because he doesn't take out the trash. He has a bathroom in his room, so he never has to leave the room. Like, he doesn't even see his parents. Like, how is this a normal 30-year-old person? This is like one of those things where like mental age is an important aspect.
Yeah,
because he's pretty much still a kid. He's stuck in time. He never like continued living when he stopped school.
Yeah, this is basically severe trauma. Time stops flowing for you.
Exactly.
It is still that day. The time between is basically as if it didn't happen. Yes, it did happen.
Why in the beginning
we have memories of the time between, but it is technically that day is maybe a week away.
It's why every time he looks like outside a window or like looks past his house, he sees people bullying him. Like, because he's still stuck in that time frame. He's still stuck in the time where he was in his room and he opens his window and there's like all the people laughing at him.
Okay.
The seasons pass by like days.
Anyway, let's see what he has to say about his problem, because if this is just going to be isekais are dumb, like it's not going to be much to say.
From hundreds of fans of the series saying that this is a redemption story. Quote, a second chance at life, morality, personal growth and improvement, the hero's journey. Quote, never too late to change, redemption, rehabilitation.
Okay, the only thing that says redemption here is redemption.
Like I'm waiting
Seriously.
for where he debunks all these other points because they're true.
These are all themes that fans would point to when asked about the story. This is a very cool thing for a series to tackle, and if we operate under the viewpoint that Mushoku Tensei is a story that is meant to address or tackle Rudy's mistakes to show that he can change and grow or redeem himself for his past life as a scumbag shut-in, why is he a sexual predator? If you ask me...
He's not.
Okay, we talked about this for like 20 minutes.
Yeah, let's just keep going.
How Rudy has 2 seasons of Mushoku Tensei, to be honest, I wouldn't really have much to tell you. There is one scene in Season 1 where he is uncomfortable with the prospect of going outside as images of his past life flash through his mind, namely the bullying and harassment he faces. He overcomes this wall and is able to go further beyond his front yard. In the anime at least, that's really all I got. Besides that, it kind of seems like he was born the perfect guy. There were fragments of interest that...
What? So here we already have the problem. He literally ignores the character development. He's like, oh, the only thing that he did the entire first season is, he learned how to go outside. That's all he did. He didn't change in any other way, which is completely wrong.
Yeah.
Like, it's what I mentioned previously. It's like from episode 1 to 8, you see, like, you can't deny this. You see him change how he behaves sexually to Ares. Like he continuously does less and less things to her because he learns that it's bad, and that he doesn't want to hurt her feelings.
Mm-hmm.
So this is just an aspect that he completely ignores.
Yeah,
He
that
completely
is
ignores that he helped his family issues with like the flawed family. He completely ignores that he was actually helping Paul become a better father. He ignores that he gave Roxy new meaning too, and that he built a lasting relationship with Sylvie and gave her a friend, and stopped her getting bullied. Like,
I guess that's what he means with he's the perfect guy. It's dismissed that way.
how is he perfect?
We don't know. Okay, let's keep going.
I said,
the first
like,
season.
dude, what I just
Go
said
ahead.
is all the things that you just listed is what this guy just dismisses because that those are positive things that he does because of him. These positive things happen. Therefore, he is the perfect guy.
Well, I think anyone in
That's
this
his
scenario,
logic,
anyone in this scenario who
and
has
he
those
dismisses
gifts,
it through that.
who has the wisdom and gifts that Rudy has been given, would automatically help his family. The way he did it was brilliant because it was going to be torn apart, and he's like, okay, how do I save this family and keep my dad with some modicum of respect, and my maid and my mom to see eye to eye? Like, that was really crazy. Like, he pulled that off. He taught Sylphie how to use magic. He learned it himself. He gave her his wand. Like, all these little things he did, he's like, I'm helping everyone around me as whatever capacity I can try. So this is what, if you were given the chance at a new life in a magical world with a new family, and you retained all your memories of this world, what would you do? If I was an engineer, I'd start revolutionizing the world. I'd start doing all kinds of things. But, this is a shut-in who just learned magic last year, and he's a genius at it because, for whatever reason. So he's going to do things.
This is also why I disagree. It's not even a power fantasy either, because like Rudius is not the most powerful person in the show. Far from it. If I remember all the fights from the first season, he pretty much would have died in almost all of them. Or like 90% of them, he would have died if it wasn't for some other character saving him.
Yeah, he is an
Like,
outlier,
he couldn't
but
win
that's
anything
it.
alone. There was like one outlier when he used the eye when he trained with Ares.
Yeah,
that's where he won.
Yeah, I mean, he's just an outlier by being an autodidact about magic learning. He's still shit at the sword and everything else. But what I meant to say on what you said before, what he is doing in this new second childhood is he has room for an opportunity for his emotional development. That what you described, that he does the creepy stuff less and less, is because he learns to not just do it for give into his impulses for his own benefit, but because he is developing empathy on a deeper level, and not just the superficial standing up that he did in his old life. Because in his old life he did stand up for other people, but it was for obvious superficial, you could say, materialistic things. While here he's learning to do it for emotional things that go deeper. Like, I don't want to hurt you, therefore I stop my bad behavior.
In his old life, he like stood up for something once, and then he immediately got beat up for it.
Yeah.
Like, he did the right thing a single time, and he immediately makes everything worse for him, and he's like, okay, I can't do this.
I could. This is speculation, but I could imagine that there might have been more incidents like that, and that went similar. They ended as duds, or he got punishment for it, and that was just the culmination of it all. Which
basically his old life taught him accumulated in, if I do the right thing, I get punished.
Yeah. Or if I do anything, I get punished. Therefore, I won't do it. Therefore, I won't do anything. I won't do anything that draws any attention. So, because attention means pain. So, I'm a shut-in.
Yes.
All right.
planted for me, and then it seemed like they were forgotten because they would stand in the way of Rudy actually having obstacles. At first I was intrigued about an upcoming bath scene, but it didn't really leave the impression on Rudy and his behavior that I had wanted. Then, after a long series of unfortunate moments, Rudy's actions end up causing the death of another human being. I was actually very much looking forward to the payoff of this moment, but it never really came, at least personally speaking, and instead we get what follows. What do we actually...
What do you mean it didn't?
What do you mean there was no consequences for him killing the guy? Richard literally told him, what the fuck is wrong with you? You waited and now this person is dead.
Yeah.
It was a valuable lesson for him because he was like trying to big brain it. He was like, oh, we're gonna wait until the last moment and then we're gonna save them and we're gonna look
to make
so
it look
good.
cool, to maximize,
to
min-max the profit.
Exactly. This guy is
he was
getting the
trying to
exact opposite take from what is actually being shown.
And because he did this, someone died. And then he's like, oh shit, someone actually died because of me. And then Richard is like, are you stupid? You just caused someone to die.
He even just showed the scene where Rudy has the realization what the fuck moment. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
like, how
he didn't understand this? That is a consequence. He realized in that very moment, like, oh, I fucked up. This is my fault.
And since this moment, he actually does prioritize to save people because this comes up again in the jungle. Because in the jungle, he like hesitates. He's like, I don't know if I want to get involved. And then he sees all the children crying and all that. And then he's like, okay, I gotta help the people. I gotta help them. Like that's the consequence that he learned. Because otherwise people die if he does nothing. He kind of has like a mini Spider-Man moment.
The wish fulfillment power fantasy side of the series really show its face. First things first,
How?
Rudy makes friends with an actual, not 30-year-old child. This child is quite impressed with Rudy's innate magic skill and tends to follow him around not only because of that, but also because Rudy had saved her from being attacked by a bunch of bigots. Rudy, the adult man, then goes to take a bath with his actual literal 5-year-old and forcefully undresses that child. This scene was genuinely really fucking uncomfortable to watch.
Why?
Now, in Mushoku Tensei's defense...
Seriously, why?
Take your wet clothes off and dry off. Who gets sick? This is.
Notice how he frames this. It's the 30-year-old taking the clothes off the 5-year-old child. That's how he frames this.
Yeah,
this moment.
but the thing is also Rudy is not interested in children.
He literally has zero sexual thoughts in this moment. In his mind, he actually does behave like a child here because he's like, okay, so she's wet. Okay, he thinks it's a boy. He's like, okay, this boy, he's gonna get sick. I need to get him the clothes off. We need to bathe, otherwise they get sick.
So there should be even less
obviously,
problems.
Sylphie being a girl, she like doesn't want to get undressed, and he's like, okay, that's weird. Why is this boy acting this way? And then he's like, is he perhaps embarrassed about his schlong? And then he's like,
what age
and then
are
he
they?
does the childish thing with the pants. He's like, I got you. And then he pulls off the pants.
Yes. What do you remember what age they were in the scene? Because I thought it was about 6.
It's probably around there. 7.
Yeah.
7.
I can't remember.
Is one thing you can attribute to the artists here drawing the scene. Children at that age, 5, 6, still don't have a concept of sexuality or embarrassment of being naked. It's not there. Unless they have been sexually abused. So, technically, these kids should have no trouble with that in the first place.
Like the only reason there is any trouble is because it's a girl, and he doesn't know that. If these were 2 boys, they would have just bathed because it's a medieval society.
Yeah. That comes on top.
That comes on top, true. But it's like there would have been no issue. They would have just bathed and that's it. But the only reason there is an issue is because he literally doesn't understand that that's not a boy.
Yeah, I'd say this scene is just a little bit tainted by modern Japanese writing.
Yeah, it's because it's like, it's a trap. It's a trap, and it's like.
No, I think it's less about the trap thing. I think it's just about the no, it's a child, but it's also the embarrassment. But no, that's it doesn't happen at that age, not really.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's the main problem in conveying this here,
So
because I don't think anyone can still convey this at this point unless you rewatch Shinchan.
Also, I before we continue, I want to point out something funny again, because this is another Norality's realization. If this person is actually such a virtue signaler that, oh no, children naked bad, why does he show it on screen? Like right now, the pause moment, he has this on screen. If he thinks this is bad, why does he show it in his video?
Yeah.
It's interesting, isn't it?
well,
It's
it
like
seems
with
as-
Noralities, it's like when Noralities did this person makes CP, look at all this CP, and then she shows it in the video.
Well,
It's like, oh,
it seems like his takes are, I guess, surface level. He's just seeing what he wants to see because, oh, this scene has a guy who's older and doing this thing. That's creepy. It's like, did you watch the scene where Rudy is confused and trying to get him to take his clothes off because they're wet and she doesn't
like,
want
this
to?
is one of the
He
scenes
only
that
sees
actually
the-
proves that he acts like a child. That the age of that he actually acts the age he's supposed to be in this
Yeah.
scene.
Yeah,
He
it's normal.
behaves very childishly.
Yeah, it feels normal. It feels natural. And the narration comes from that other voice in his head. And you're like, oh, I get it now.
Like nothing in this scene is like, oh, it's the groomer 30-year-old undressing the child
this is-
sexually. It's like,
In
no,
the-
this didn't happen.
If you wanted to interpret it in with the 30-year-old mind, then it would just be an adult wanting to take care of the child and not any sexual exploitation.
Yeah,
because it's a child. Child is dirty.
This is
Here,
what
get clean.
this is what we miss in manga, like from the light novel. We talk about the original source or the primary. The light novel has all the dialogue or inner dialogue of these characters. The manga cuts it down. The anime cuts it down even further. When I read really good manga or isekai manga, it usually involves a heck of a lot of narration from the perspective of the person doing who was isekai'd and trying to figure out what to solve a problem and how to do it. That's where all the good planning and plotting happens. And you need that in these stories where, well, obviously the animation budget is really well done to facilitate all these scenes, but you need all that explanation saying what's going on in this guy's head. And once you listen and go, oh, he's confused and doesn't know what was going on in this scenario, he probably acted too rashly, he's sorry, he doesn't want to do that anymore, then you say, okay, the intention was fine, he just didn't know any better, now he's trying to correct his mistake, and then hilarity or problems pop up as a result of his mistake, and that's normal. So you need that narration, and we get that with the show. So it's like he's not even paying attention to the narrator who's saying why things are happening the way they are.
Yeah, but I honestly would like more anime, good anime, to see the characters acting like normal people,
Right, yeah.
even in these fantasy art styles. I think we've lost that, or a large part of that. And Mushoku Tensei does it, and to a degree, in its own way. I would even say Demon Slayer also does it in its soap opera sort of way with its mechanical story beats,
Yeah.
but that it plays out really well. It does it all in with the right mixture of spices.
Right. This is when you read the really long going mangas, like, I don't know if you guys remember How a Realist Hero Rebuilt the Kingdom, which is, I believe, a Japanese manga. There's Release That Witch, which is a South Korean one, I think. There's so much explanation as to their thought process, where they sound like, oh, this is a rational human being trying to figure out the problem and how to solve it. And it doesn't matter whether they're using planting crops a certain way or mechanical engineering. There's all this knowledge that we need to know as the audience. If you just say, oh, I'm going to do crop rotation, it's like, what the hell is crop rotation? I don't know what you're talking about. Or the engineer says, I'm going to use water pressure to facilitate a pump that we can create an upward force to make a water table. It's like, what the, like, you have to explain that to the audience like they're children. It doesn't matter if it's scientific or whatever. It makes sense to me Go, keep going, solve the problem. And I go, oh, I'm with you. I get it. Now I understand how you did that. And that's how you tell a story that makes sense.
Yeah, how should I? Why should I spin the crops all the time? Doesn't that take a lot of time? But like twirling them up all. What does that do?
Yeah, and then we have the scene in that particular scenario where, let's say the elf knight, she has a problem with her forest. The forest keeps sliding. All the trees are destroying all the ground because they're too old. It's like, well, we have this thing called tree forestry where you clean out the old trees to allow the younger ones to grow, and you don't have these landslides. And she's thought, oh my God, you're a magician. Let me marry you. And it's like, no, this is normal, but explains why they are entranced by this guy who comes in with this common knowledge that no one has in the medieval world. That we
somehow.
Well, yeah, obviously, with modern Japanese.
Some of these things people already knew back in the day.
Oh yeah,
because when you live in nature for a couple 100 generations, and there's nothing else to do, you figure out those things.
Yeah, chop down semi-old trees. Like, yeah, it makes sense. Okay. So, they facilitate the next plot where it's like, okay, now we're going to have a marriage between these two people so that the kingdom is stronger, and that brings up more conflict because now we have concubines and marriage proposals going on. So this level of detail we require. It can't just be, well, it can. I've seen animes that are so fast, the pacing is so quick, but that's kind of the style. I was about to say it's the mode or the attitude, sometimes the tone, but it's like a comedic style of the guy getting transported to a new world with all his knowledge, and he's a god magic powerhouse that can blow away forests. So those are fun, but if you want to tell a dramatic story, you have to be on the level with the antagonist or protagonist and what they're thinking and why. Once you got that, you can make it scientific, you can make it rational, you can make it practical, you can make it evil, so long as it makes sense. And it does in this scenario, so that there's no question that what Rudy did was wrong, but he didn't know. So we go, oh, okay, yeah, fine. We didn't know either. We weren't too sure. And he acted properly.
I would say, in short, this guy here who makes the video does not have little siblings, nor cousins, or has ever played with children younger than him when he was a child.
Well, Wisp, here's something terrifying that I'm going to reveal now.
And never read a book about pedagogy or something.
This person is a school teacher in California.
Whoa,
why am I not surprised?
What does he
teach?
This guy himself looked like he's barely 18.
Grade school, what does he do? Math? Something.
I have no idea. I just know that he's a teacher in California, and he thinks California is the best state. He loves it.
But if he is a teacher, then I wouldn't have said this otherwise. But please go to a nose doctor and get that polyp out of your nose. Because if you sound weird and kids can't understand you, or just because your voice sounds weird, they won't be able to listen much to you.
Well, I always argue, what do you teach? Because if he's teaching math and science, then maybe something went wrong with either his girlfriend or his teacher's college, or they're teaching him stupid crap. Because usually the people who do math and science are very hardcore and very straightforward, and they don't putz around. They know what they're talking about. Whereas if you're teaching social sciences or geography or something less scientific, you're going to delve into this sort of interpretation of reality. And that, unless you're in the fine arts, this is not where you belong.
You think Californian teachers still learn anything that requires studying?
Well, even in Ontario, we have a huge problem with these pumping out of left-leaning mindsets. And it doesn't matter whether you're doing the maths or any grade level. You're going to have that mindset, well, we have to be friendly, we have to be nice, and da-da-da, and everyone has to get along. It's like, well,
no, you have to get the equations right.
You gotta be accurate. You gotta explain things.
And the grammar.
You can't just facilitate everyone's needs. You have to...
And the word order in your sentence.
You gotta teach what is, not what you think is. So, anyway. We're at 4 minutes in. This is taking some time because we all love this series, and he's explaining it not so well.
Portrayed as a bad thing. His parents come down on him for this, however, not for being an adult undressing a child, because obviously they don't know about that, but because undressing only girls is bad, not that forcefully undressing children is bad. Not only does
You didn't have a childhood, did you?
child.
Yeah, if
He's also a child. He's trying to bathe. He's not trying to be
have
sexual.
you ever tried to bathe a child? It's not the easiest thing in the world.
Like the way he says it, it's like, oh, undressing a child is like the blanket wrong. It's like, okay, but what if he needs to bathe? What if he needs to bathe with the child? Then what?
Yeah, I don't know if you guys have heard stories from your parents or their siblings, but there's plenty of
I
stories.
mean, this indirectly reveals that he himself doesn't have children.
Yeah, no, obviously, because
Then he wouldn't see. Then he would understand. Okay, yeah, I have to undress the child because I need to wash them.
yeah, there are stories of children not bathing for weeks because they just don't want to, and they're such a hassle that to get near them makes them get violent, and you're like, I don't know what to do with this kid. He's driving me crazy.
I just realized he's a teacher, and he has absolutely no clue of how children work. He never had any basic teaching about basic pedagogy, basic child psychology, stages of development, like nothing.
I mean, Wisp, he literally
Even I
thinks
had that in
California is
school.
the
I
best
didn't know.
state.
I
He
had
thinks
that
there's
in
nothing
school.
wrong with it.
The hell. Also, by the way,
he's
since
already
the commies like this actually like naked children apparently a lot, which he probably didn't get the memo yet. In East Germany, the children in the kindergarten, they were always sent out to the mass shower, all naked, all the time. We had lakes where everyone would go naked to, because it was encouraged by the socialist regime for everyone to be naked at the lake.
I would like to use which razor is that? Occam's razor. Let's reduce this to sheer stupidity and not anything nefarious first. I don't think.
In his case, it's stupidity.
Yeah,
It's because he doesn't know anything.
There we go. Fair enough. Okay.
In the case of our regime in East Germany, because North Korea still does the same thing, there was more to it.
So John Calabro in the chat says, sounds weird. Can we agree that some anime can be weird? I have watched some anime that I have to turn off because of the way they treat young girls. It's creepy. It's literally like a really tame scene. He doesn't do anything in the scene.
Do not watch Puni Puni Poemi.
All right.
Like, you can find it weird, but it's like a 1 minute scene of him doing nothing. You don't see anything, and it's a character moment for him.
It's almost an autistic moment, because he really doesn't get what the fuck's
Yes,
the problem.
really like. This is why I say this is like one of the most age-appropriate things he does in the entirety of like the first few episodes.
One of the things that just occurred to me is that it's also the fact that the Japanese have like communal baths, and it's something that
This is a really good point too.
would
Like
have
the writers
missed out
Japanese,
on
and they have
Doesn't
like
shut in.
customs where they
Yeah, but
where they pay for family.
Ken, let Drunken
Sorry.
Mumble speak.
Oh, I was just gonna say that it's probably something that Rudy, I forget his Japanese name, but something that he probably missed out on completely, and he just found what he thought was a friend that was a boy that he was probably going to be doing that kind of thing with as a bonding experience kind of thing, something that he missed out on, not something super creepy. He doesn't know that it's a girl, etc., etc.
Yeah.
I didn't get
I
any
didn't even
intention
think
but
about
wanting to
this.
help from it.
I didn't even think about this aspect. Is like that he doesn't have a problem with this because it's like a Japanese thing for him.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, you bathe with the family.
Yeah,
It's like, yeah.
It's funny
normal.
because my brother always tells me stories. He loves the baths when he goes to Japan. He goes once a year at least, and he's telling me all these stories. There's all these old women in both the men and the women's sides. They don't give a shit. They're cleaning. They're like, everything has to be super clean. Give me your towel. I'll give you a fresh towel. It's like they're like all these men just naked, lined up. Just waiting in the bathroom. He's like, just handing out towels, having a good time. So yeah, no, the culture in Japan is very different when it comes to public bathing and acceptance of these norms they've had for hundreds of years. So yeah, it's not a big deal.
Normal old women aren't horny all the time unless they have neurosyphilis.
Oh well, yeah. Anyway,
with undressing a child, he also gets away with being a sex pest towards a character that is intentionally drawn to look more childlike. Not only did he take a pair of Roxy's underwear
Does it
without
play
her
or is it
consent,
stuck on
literal
my end?
sexual harassment,
It doesn't work for you, Wisp?
I guess it's stuck. It'll come. It'll.
Well, what
Just
he
needs a
just
moment.
said, I wanna address this too. So he goes along the lines of, okay, Roxy is drawn to be younger. Like he's obviously making like the lowly argument. This is very interesting because now he's making the argument, okay, this character is drawn to look really young, but we know that Roxy's actually 40. Like this is a canonical fact that she's actually an adult. But in reverse, he says that Rudy is an adult even though he's a child. So which is it? Is Rudy a child or is he an adult because of the way that he looks? Or is Roxy a child or an adult because of the way that she looks? Which one is it?
It's also the fact that he sees her as a goddess and he respects her so much that, of course, anything about her, he'd be like, oh my God, I have her hat, I have her shoes. Like, for sure, panties, whatever. Like, it doesn't really matter what it is. He's going to respect that thing because he likes her so much. So
yeah, but I was just like referring to the fact that like he makes like this snide comment. It's like, oh, she looks like a lolly. She looks like a young child, even though we know that she is an adult in the series.
yeah,
But then he does like the reverse argument on Rudius, where Rudius looks like a child, but he insists he's a 30-year-old man. Like he's being a total hypocrite here. And he just slides that in.
Which is which shines an interesting light on the whole age versus looks issue, doesn't it?
well,
He like completely switches it up depending on how it is. Like Rudy looks like a child, but actually he's a 30-year-old man. And then with Roxy's like Roxy's an adult, but she looks like a child. So like, which is it?
I think it's bad when men do it, but it's okay when women aren't. What's the argument? The opposite for Dragon Maid, whereas
By the way, we did have confusing court cases. I don't remember the outcomes anymore in Germany about act photos of adult women that look, due to hormonal issues, due to their development, not like over 18, but rather like 12 to 14. And the question was, well, is that child porn now or not? Because it looks like it, but the person was an adult when it was made because the person looks underdeveloped. So what is going on? And this is one of these weird limbo things that are just mind-breaking. At least for the legalese.
I mean, it's also something that somebody like him probably wouldn't even want to address because you have to think about it in a nuanced way.
Oh, and it opens up so many other issues, because if you forbid this to if you forbid this practice to such a woman, do you also forbid her to get married? Because, well, who would marry her? You would accuse the man of being a pedophile because he married an adult woman who, well, looks like a 14-year-old.
Do you forbid her to get a car because she looks like a child, so she can't drive the car? Like,
she does have to
where
reach
does
the
line
pedals.
end?
yeah, plus she has
that
to.
too, yeah.
She has to be carded everywhere she goes, whether she wants to buy alcohol or enter an adult premises. It's like, oh yeah, here's my ID, and then the person getting the ID says, "You don't look like you're 18. You look like you're 12. I can't let you in." Blah 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 blah. It's like, oh geez. So, yeah, that's a tricky one. I don't know what to think of that. Anyway, we're only 4 minutes in, so this is taking some time.
taken from him at some point, and he literally receives them back from someone else as a reward for his actions. He also proceeds to make figures of this girl, creating them with...
Okay, so that was the scene with he gets reunited with one of his stepsisters and the maid gives him back the panties because she knew it meant a lot to him. So the maid would not give this guy an object of his perversion.
Mm-hmm.
The maid would be like, "Oh, you're my hero. You're a good person. Here's this symbol of this thing you care about, who is your teacher."
And this is something that I think he also ignores, is like that the panties, as weird as it sounds, they transcended what they meant to him. Like at first he was like, oh, it's the panties, it's the sexual thing. But then over time, those became like almost like a memento of her.
Yeah, it's an absolute. It becomes an absolute keepsake. It is less the sexual object.
Yeah, he doesn't think of it sexually. It's like, oh, it's the thing of Roxy, it's the person that I like.
Yeah, that was
Felt
it
the
reminds
holy
me of
relic,
her.
I think.
yeah.
the
Episode
Holy
8,
Relic.
episode 8 of season 2. That was the big funny reveal where he pulls open the chest or whatever. Oh, it's a shrine now, and it's all this music. Oh, and everyone's like, "What is that?" Oh, I'm so. They bow down. And you're like, "What? What's going on?" But people who know that from the first season go, "Oh yeah, okay." So yeah, no, it's beautiful. Like he reveres this woman who's his teacher.
And also again it plays into his characterization because he has such a weird background in terms of like how he grew up, that something like this becomes a memento for him, because he's like, oh yeah, this makes total sense. I remember this person with her panties. Like to him this isn't an odd thing, because that's just what he thinks.
If we look at it from the child side, and emotionally he is not very much more developed than that. He is. I would even say that at that point he is emotionally as old as he is physically.
Yes.
Because he didn't mature further in his previous life. And had this guy who made this video never had a childhood crush on an adult, on a teacher or something? Most kids have that, boys and girls.
All right, 4 minutes 30 seconds. We're this is going to take a lot longer than I thought.
Yeah, and it's the exotic, beautiful woman that pays him attention and teaches him something.
Like, of course, makes him overcome his trauma accidentally, but he overcomes his trauma with her.
Yeah, it's the old wise man in the boon on the hero's journey, essentially.
Yes.
Show her naked. Yet another form of very gross sexual harassment of this girl he has not spoken to in years at this point.
When did he sexually harass Roxy?
Making a figure of her is sexual harassment, I guess.
Only once she knows, and even then she was... Well, she wasn't miffed.
She was just surprised. And she's like, oh, the prince bought a figure that looks like me and has retractable clothes. And then Rudy is like, oh, fuck, he bought the figure that I sold.
The problem was rather the prince, because he's an actual sexual predator.
That is, well...
The prince is in many aspects way worse than Rudy, and he's completely ignored in this video.
I'd say the prince is irredeemable.
He's a bit childish in his passion, and it's so obvious he's crazy about sculpture. And there is a scene. Is it episode 7 or 8? I think it's maybe 6.
That's the other prince.
Well, it's the guy with the glasses who's super strong and he wants to sculpt.
Yeah. But the sex creep, we talk about is the little fat guy.
Yeah. First season, yeah, for sure.
I mean, I think the figure thing is another really interesting thing when you like connect it to his old life, because obviously he might have liked like anime figures or something, but now he's like able to make them himself. And what does he do? He makes figures of his family. He makes figures of the people he cares about.
Yeah, and with this magic, he can make them exactly as he is imagining them in his mind. A wish fulfillment of many artists.
Yeah, and it's funny.
Like he even made like the horse, I think, like in the background. What we saw, like he made his entire family. It's not just a sexual thing.
And in the episode, was it episode 7 or 8? I can't remember, of the second season, he sees the destroyed Roxy figurine, and he realizes, I could fix this in about an hour. It's not a big deal, but I'm gonna get pissed off at these people who broke it, because it means so much to me, and this person means so much to my past. And that's where we get some wonderful, because we all know what it means. The audience has watched the first season. Mm-hmm. So it's like, okay, yeah, this is exactly what Rudius would do if his most prized sculpture that his friend, who also admires that sculpture, saw what happened to it would do about that problem.
And these are all things that continue to play into his character, where he starts to attach himself to people, and he starts to value people. And he gets upset because something that he connects strongly with another person got destroyed. So he's like, I'm mad now. This means a lot to me. I really like this person. Why did he do this?
Which is
things like that.
Even really funny in the first season when Roxy's in the same town as he is, and they're walking past each other.
They walk past each other. Yes,
it's so funny. It's like they're looking so hard for someone, and it's like, nope, can't find him.
And then she almost sees him, and she gets scared of Rucher, then runs away right when Rudy comes up.
Yeah, but to bring up your previous point, for having so much of a problem with the depiction of children, why is he fully showing the figurine?
He sure likes showing it in this video, doesn't he?
It's so offensive, guys. Look at this horrible, disgusting thing that Rudy has made.
It's like somebody
you can
being offended
buy
at
this figure, by the way. Like, this
like
is
somebody...
a real figure you can get.
Yeah, but it's like being offended at real life gore, at snuff, and then showing it around to everyone. Look how horrible this is. How this person gets made.
Why I keep saying, like, I need to come up with a term for this. It's like, because like no realities did the exact same thing. It's so weird. It's like, oh, look at this bad thing, and then they show the bad thing on the screen.
I can't show you, but I'll show you it. Like, yeah, it's YouTube won't let me. It's like, oh, okay. And there's a link. Oh, link in the description to whatever you want to see from I don't know, my zip drive that I uploaded to some file sharing service. It's like, okay, I guess it's that bad. It's like, no, it's just some poster or some meme has a swear word in it, something like that. Like, okay, whatever. Anyway, yeah, this is really good. It's all 3D stuff in anime, which is rare, and it looks good, which is unexpected.
Never impugned him for these actions. In fact, the predator figures he creates end up getting him out of a jam.
The predator? Okay, that's a weird way to put it.
Further rewarding him for his predation. Additionally, Rudy meets a 10-year-old girl he was tasked to train. Over the years as they get to know each other, Rudy would continually make advances on her until she rejected him outright on his 10th birthday, telling him to wait until he is 15. We also get a wonderful scene of Rudy being so unable to communicate with a child normally that he has to go leave to rub one out real quick before he can have a real conversation with her, because he saw her lying down from seasickness. This all culminates in not Rudy recognizing that he should not have sex with a child, but actually, he literally does have sex with a child when he's not even 15. And he even explicitly thinks, wouldn't this be taking advantage of her? And he still does it. The common response to that is that she initiated and, she is a child and he is not.
Okay, they are of legal age.
Yeah, both children.
Yeah.
Both of them are children.
They both care about each other. She respects him. He respects her. They learned as they went on their journey, which was a crazy story of near-death experiences.
Also, and I think this is also worth noting. Like, this is actually one of the most tasteful sex scenes that I've actually seen in an anime. Because like they show nothing,
yeah.
And it's mostly like the cinematography with the cup that falls on the ground. Mm-hmm. But like this scene is so layered with both of them. Like you could say both of them make mistakes. Because like Ares is like, okay, like I gotta leave, but I want to feel a connection to Rudy before I leave. And so he's like, okay, I want to sleep with him. And then Rudy is like, okay, I understand that something is going on with her. So I really am hesitant to do this. So he's like, okay, Ares, I don't want this. And then he says this like 3 to 4 times. He says no until she keeps pushing herself on him. And then he finally says yes. He said like no multiple times.
Because it's in accordance with...
I find this especially interesting, like from a leftist perspective, where it's like, oh, no means no. He said no 4 times.
No means no only... No means no only when the girl says it.
And then he says the excuse that she is a child. It's like, wait a minute, what does that even mean? So a child can non-consensually take advantage of you? Like, what's happening now? What is this argument?
Even then, I believe in the second season with the loss of his first party that he's drunk, and he's sort of lambasting the girl for not being as sexy as Ares, because Ares is more developed at that age, and she's not, and she's older. Like, so obviously he's attracted to her. So it's not like he's like, I'm not into this. I care about this. No, he actually cares
This
about it.
this is actually a good point because he finds Ares more attractive because he actually loves her.
Yeah.
This is a really interesting point because I don't think many shows actually do this, where they point out that he finds someone more attractive because of the personal connection he has with them.
Right. And this scene is, as we know, has heavy consequences for him. So it's like, this is what you want in stories. You want natural things to happen to your characters that make sense, which are in conflict. So a love story. This is a romance, obviously. And it's flipped because the woman's pursuing the male, or the female's pursuing the male.
Yeah, and that scene that we talk about here, that scene that we talk about here, is in accordance with the personalities of the two.
Yes.
It's not just that she is pushing herself onto him; she is seriously pushing herself onto him, and he doesn't know how to, well,
and this
talk
is like
her out of it.
the culmination of like how Rudy has developed. Because if this was early on, he would have said yes immediately.
Yeah,
but he says no multiple times because he understands that there's something going on with her, and that he doesn't
the only
want
way
to
to stop
like,
that,
hurt her.
Exactly, and the only way to stop her at that point would be using violence.
Yes, and he doesn't want to hurt her. Obviously, he doesn't want to beat her up.
Yeah, and that is the problem of the timid introvert who doesn't know what the fuck to do anymore. Because talking apparently doesn't work. You're trying to reason with the irrational.
This is another good point. It's like a person like him, like how would he know how to escape this situation? Of course he caves in when she like pushes herself so strong on him. Like you said, like what would he even be able to do? Push her off? That would hurt her feelings and would possibly physically hurt her. He doesn't want to do that.
Yeah, and add on top of that the touch of a woman melts a man's brain anyway. So that comes on top. So he's hormonally overwhelmed as well.
Yeah, that never even did something like this.
That as well, all of these things all come together, and if you see it from the outside perspective, inside this world, it's a medieval world. This is a completely normal age.
Yeah, and again, they went on a quest.
Bloody hell! And this is true for most schools here on the continent. This is true for most schools here on the continent. Kids start having sex at 14.
And he presents it as like, oh, he's having sex with a child because he's a 30-year-old man. And then he ignores the aspect that Ares in this scene is actually older than him. And he even mentions this. He's like, but I'm not 15 yet. Why do you want to do this? Like, shouldn't we wait? Like, he says all these things. And she does it anyways because she wants to be close to him before she leaves.
Also, the age of consent in Japan is 16, I think. Yeah, it's around there. So, again, Japanese culture, Japanese writers, mentality, and sensibilities of a medieval fantasy.
Even then, it's a fictional world.
Yeah,
so it's not even.
And I always go back to the original point of the story, which is they went on this huge journey together where they survived, bonded, they saved each other's lives several times. She was this brash, angry, passionate. She still is angry and passionate, but she's matured a bit. She's respecting this guy who ended up, being his teacher, and she hated that, but they got along, and it changes you. She grew to love the guy. So if you didn't pay attention to those episodes, then yeah, this wouldn't make too much sense. You'd be like, this is weird. But
this is so weird to me, especially because like the Ares and Rudy relationship throughout like the first season is like one of the best parts of the show. It's such good development with those two. And you even have like the moment prior where like Orsted shows up and kills him, and she just breaks down. Like she cries her heart out to like people that aren't even there because she just doesn't want Rudy to die and she wants anybody to save him. It's such a good moment. It's such a good character dynamic. He's like, oh no, child sex, and it's like, oh come on.
Yeah,
this guy was a virgin until 25.
Well, Orsted is a pretty that whole scene is like, oh my god. Anyway, different tone. Let's keep going.
Mentally 30 years old. The girl ends up feeling like she doesn't deserve to be with someone so great, so she...
To bring this back, I think he, in his previous life, he was physically at least 30 years old, but mentally, no.
Yeah, he
Not with
wasn't
that, not with
mentally
that, not with that background, not with that life story.
Also, this is something I also just remembered, like, because he mentioned the whole thing with like his inner voice. Like the man god even reveals that the reason why he hears why this is the voice that he hears in his head and why he always looks like his old self when he's with him is because he subconsciously rejects the reincarnation. Like he thinks he doesn't deserve this new life. That's why he still hears his old voice in his head. Why he still looks like that when he meets the man god. So like he even the man god says he's not supposed to be like this.
Yeah, the trauma is not overcome.
He's supposed to be fully reincarnated, but he thinks he doesn't deserve it.
Yeah, the trauma isn't overcome because that is a result of that trauma.
Yes.
The feeling of I deserve nothing good.
Yes.
heads up, get stronger and become the kind of person she wants to be, Rudy is very distraught that his statutory rape victim went off on their own.
Statutory rape victim? She pushed herself on him, you asshole! Fucking hell. I hope you never have children. You will only screw them up.
This is actually crazy that he calls a rape victim.
You
this
should not be
consensual.
You are the one who should not be let close to children because you're just gonna fuck up their brains.
Literally, both of them agreed to this. I just like, no, it's rape. It's rape because I say so. Like, okay.
Because he was physically old in his old life. Because this guy doesn't understand. This is the guy. This is the way this guy talks and understands social situations and emotional situations and problems. I would say he would have been one of the bullies.
That is a pretty safe assumption.
All right. Anyway, let's get going.
Tau dysfunction. No, none of this is made up. Yes, he gets away with all of this. Now, there is one thing we have to get out of the way. How exactly does a character get away with something? A lot of people misinterpret this to mean that I think Rudy should be thrown in jail. No, not that one. Which isn't entirely accurate. He should be put under the...
He just flash a picture of Rudy Giuliani.
Yes. The mugshot.
But
he's so left-brained. Trump derangement syndrome in a random video.
Well, he's a Californian. What do you expect? But hey, there's just a question, Mr. Californian teacher. What do you think of Pedo Joe? Should he be under a jail?
He was about to say something else. I want to hear that.
Okay, sorry.
A character get away with something. A lot of people misinterpret this to mean that I think Rudy should be thrown in jail. No, not that one. Which isn't entirely accurate. He should be put under the jail. Seriously though, what does holding fictional characters accountable entail? I've made an entire video about this, but I can go over it again briefly. Narratives do not have to go out of their way to obnoxiously, explicitly explain that a character doing something is bad. There are tons of other alternatives to this. How about, hey, Roxy is not a fan of Rudy literally sexually harassing her, and it puts a strain on their relationship going forward. How about, hey, Rudy could be punished narratively by taking advantage of a child and having her leave him. Oh shit, that's what happened.
She is solely professional about it. Why do you keep, if you're so against this, why do you keep showing us the very sex scenes, the lewd scenes that you disapprove of so much? What the fuck is wrong with you?
This is why I said I need to come up with a term for this. They keep doing it. They keep virtue signaling about something and showing it on screen uncensored.
I mean, it is really obviously interesting. Yeah, it is obviously part of virtue signaling because he doesn't understand the problem of what he's complaining about. And I bet if his political camp hadn't taught him to be super appalled by any of this, he wouldn't even notice it.
I mean, it would be really interesting to find out his opinion on Cuties, if he approves of that movie.
Let's not bring that up.
For leaving. Actually, Rudy is an incredible guy, even though he will go on to assault other women in season 2.
He did not. Oh my god, he did not assault her. Are you retarded?
This is hilarious. totally fake news. What he's saying right now. This didn't happen.
If you guys watch, this is the scene where, well, not the scene, but this is the girl in season 2 of the first party who hates Rudy just like Eris and warms up to him. And she's constantly saying, "I don't like you," or like she's constantly, "I don't like you," or anything. Blah, blah, blah. He did not even. It was everything about her was consensual. I just do not understand this guy. Is it because he has the mind of a 30-year-old? Is that it? Everything then becomes
excuse for everything, Smudge. He's a 30-year-old. He can't be doing this. It's haram.
What if what if he had none of those like pervy attitudes and didn't take any panties? Would it still be the same problem? He just because the mind of the isekai is
like it's the mind thing for him. It's the 30-year-old thing that he can't let go of.
Jesus.
This is one of the things that just struck me is that this could never be done in a tasteful way via the topic. He is 30 years old, quote unquote, in his mind, but the body of a 14-year-old now.
Yeah.
Ergo, he would only be able to have sex with someone who was outwardly 30 years old in this world, which would look pedophilic in the opposite direction.
This is the thing that he is going to bring that up later, which is how I'm going to save my own argument. But to keep it simple, this is actually true what you said. This is something I thought of too. Because if he is supposed to be 30 when he's a child, and you want to say, okay, so he should be with someone that's 30. That would make the other character a pedophile.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, the mental age gap would always be there.
Well, the main question we have to ask this guy is, when is it okay for Rudy to have sex under your criterion, whatever your criterion?
He's going to mention this, and it's going to be a stupid argument.
Oh, yeah? Okay, let's get that.
I'm going to wait till he says
I look forward to it. I'm already dubious.
Repercussions for it. As an example of denouncing a character's actions visually, I often use this ReZero scene, in which the protagonist, trying to say that a woman in his life owes him a greater debt than she can ever repay, looks absolutely deranged. You don't need the series to come out and exposition dump about how bad this is, because through the use of the visual medium, it accomplishes the same thing. As an example of denouncing a character's actions narratively, you can look at Tanya the Evil, another isekai anime about someone who is evil. She is a pretty fucked up fascist little dude, and the series regularly...
Tanya kills a lot of commies. That's good. That's morally perfect.
I want to make a quick joke. He said please. Tanya is a fascist little dude. He misgendered Tanya.
Wait. No, he thinks Tanya is a guy.
Because Tanya is a guy that reincarnated as a girl.
But was he
Tanya doesn't seem to care.
Yeah, but was he a fascist in his previous life, or
no?
Or was Tanya?
No.
So he's confusing the two.
There's nothing about Tanya, whether in the previous life, no on this one. Tanya is an actual fascist. Tanya is a utilitarian psychopath for personal gain.
Yes.
That's all. Tanya doesn't give a shit about ideology except that she hates commies.
Well, that means he's cherry picking what he wants to be the narrative in this case. Well, it's a guy. That's bad. Let me call him a guy. And, in this time, she's part of an empire. Therefore, she's fascist. It's like, wait, what?
I just think it's interesting because, I will give him props for the fact that this seems to be consistent in that he views the characters as their own life. Because, again, I find it a bit weird that he actually says little dude. Because, this would be a misgender on his behalf, on his ideology. But I give him a little point here, because this does seem to check out with, how he views Rudius. So he views the reincarnated characters their old lives. So there's a little consistency.
What would he call Aang, the Last Airbender?
Ooh,
because he is born. The Avatar is born with a wiped mind. But he can talk to all his past lives, which means he is all his past lives at any given moment, technically speaking. So what is Aang, he or she?
The Avatar is several people at once.
It's a rhetorical question. Don't try to answer it.
Okay.
It's just to show this idiot's problem with understanding this whole soul nonsense.
Always desires right in front of her and taking them away last second. A constant mockery of her ideology and pointing out her incompetence. Rudy's desires are never teased and stripped from him. Instead, he is constantly rewarded. Despite being a...
His
But did he
desires
say
are
Kwanya
never
is
teased.
incompetent?
No, he said that Rudy's desires are never ripped from him, and he like this is the
The
whole
man
thing
has
with his
ED.
like
I mean,
yeah, this is like the whole thing with like his power fantasy argument is like the entire big point of like episode 8 is that his peaceful life that he wanted this entire time is stripped away because there's this big disaster that like teleports everyone around, and now he has to find his family again. It's like, how is that not like his dreams getting crushed? Because like when he was with Eri's father, like the father was like offering like a coup. Like he was saying, "Oh, I'm gonna have a coup and I'm gonna make you the leader of the family." And Rudy is like, "What? No, I don't want anything like that. I just want a peaceful life." And this peaceful life that he wants gets destroyed. So how is that not his dreams getting shattered? How is that not what he wants getting ripped away from him?
Because it's too
How is that
mundane and neutral, so that this guy can't even spot that. Because he doesn't even know how to value the safety of his peaceful, sheltered bourgeois life.
I'm getting a bit confused because the title is a redemption story or not. So it's like, are you even sure of what you're arguing? Or do you know what
Redemption from what?
Well, when you're confused, you're like, I don't understand. And you say, I don't understand why Rudy is doing this. I don't know what this is. It's like he doesn't know what the plot is of the story.
Seriously, so he said fans of the story brought up the word redemption. The thing is, if that is true, those fans probably just use the word out of reflex. Because tell me what he needs to redeem himself from his old life. What is the technically irredeemable, or the thing that needs redemption that he did? He tried to stand up for someone else and got punished for it, and now he has to redeem himself for standing up for someone else? What are you talking about? What? It can't be a redemption story. So the answer is neither nor. It can't be a redemption story if there is nothing to redeem yourself from the past life. What this is a second chance. That's all. A second chance at a good life.
I still find it interesting that he titled the video with the redemption thing, even though when he actually like showed those, I think that was Reddit, like those Reddit comments, it was a single person that mentioned redemption. All those other terms that were mentioned are accurate to what the show actually is. Mm-hmm. Like a second chance at life and like making the best of life. Like all of those were all accurate. But he chose to go with the one that he can argue against.
And he can't even, because if he honestly did, then there would be no point.
Yes.
Because it's a misnomer.
Okay. 7 minutes in, and it keeps getting worse. We're going to be here for a while.
Yes.
Underwear, the adults around him protect him and give him back to him for him to form a religion around. Despite forcefully undressing a child, he continually gets more and more adept at magic and even gets rewarded by yet another childlike character giving him a power boost, letting him see a second or two into the future. Despite being a weird fucking creep to a child consistently for
an insane goddess.
Yeah.
Pretty old one, too.
It's a almost comic relief how she behaves.
Yeah.
So.
The joke is literally that nobody, like the audience, thinks she's crazy and doesn't believe her, and then Richard is like, "Oh yeah, the Demon Empress. Oh yeah, I know that one. I heard of that one." And it's like, wait, it's real? Like that's the entire joke.
Yeah. Then we see a giant statue of her in one of the ruins they encounter. You're like,
yeah.
And then we encounter her supposed fiance is another demon king with like 6 arms. You're like, oh my god, what the hell is this guy? It's for comedic relief, but no, it's a child. He's a 6-year-old child. Like, okay, sure.
Here's a random magic gift from me. It's awesome and painful. I poke my fingernail into your eye.
I was just about to mention this. He's like, oh, he gets another power boost. It's such a power fantasy. He's like, she literally rips out his old eye and gives him a new one, and he winces in pain on the ground.
Yeah. Also, pay my booze bill.
Yeah, my food.
Yes.
Whatever it was, yeah.
Because I'm a broke demon emperor.
That's its own manga.
Restrains their relationship at all, and instead falls directly in line with wish fulfillment garbage and allows him to act.
It's not wish fulfillment. What do you? What?
It's not wish fulfillment.
How is this wish fulfillment? What is being fulfilled here?
What's wish fulfillment garbage? It's like how?
And how is, first off, how is wish fulfillment garbage? Like, what is the problem of the setup that you don't like?
Oh, yes, the greatest wish fulfillment. I too wish that I had erectile dysfunction. That's so great.
I was traumatized by my first experience with a woman, and she left me, and I don't know why.
Yeah, that's great. That's what I want to.
Instant trauma. Just what I wanted.
Wish fulfillment.
Yes.
I can't wait to be thrown away by a girl. Okay.
It's literally like the Norrealities thing with like, oh, ReZero is a wish fulfillment. It's like, yes, I too wish to be murdered brutally all the time. That's what I want.
Man, I can't wait for having a second chance with a functioning, loving family that then gets ripped away from me, scattered around the globe into dangerous continents full of monsters. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds great. When I don't even know if they're still alive or not, and I don't know where they are. That sounds awesome. I would love that.
Yeah.
That would be great.
Yeah. Great.
Actually have one of the most popular television shows in history, Breaking Bad, is a series all about narratively punishing its protagonist for his ever-expanding ego and pride. He makes a bad decision, he narrowly escapes the worst consequences, and dives himself deeper into a worse situation over and over for 5 seasons before it all finally blows up in his face. The point being...
Well, no, he just dies. The cancer caught up with him.
No, he doesn't just die, he sacrifices in order to save Jesse.
Right, there's other things happening.
For whom he cared very much at the end.
To say it blows
Almost
up
like
in his
his own
face,
son.
you could say that happens like every week. Like there's something that goes wrong and it goes up and down.
Yeah.
So no, he dies of cancer. So
And while the whole Walter White thing seems very dark, yes, there is ego involved. Most of it is a doubling down issue where he just digs himself deeper into a situation he can't escape from anymore, while also thinking that, well, I'm gonna die anyway, so what gives? I want to make buck for my family so that they have something, and fucking hell, that wife, couldn't you have drowned in the fucking pool?
You could almost make the argument that Walter is like a reverse of Rudius. Because like Rudius tries to be a good person almost all the time. Like he doesn't want to kill people. He doesn't want to do like political coups, even if they would like give him a lot of money or something. Like he rejects things like he doesn't want to do slavery unless he has to. Like he always rejects the bad thing. But he's such a bad person. He has sex with a child.
in multiple different ways, rather than just fucking throwing them in jail, and as a cop-out response to the genuine criticisms of the horrible character known as Rudy. Mushoku Tensei...
He's a horrible character because... why?
Because he's a 30-year-old man.
There we go.
It isn't a redemption story, even though it desperately bills itself as one.
How? Where? Who is he redeeming?
Yeah, he's not redeeming himself from anything, because there's nothing to redeem himself from. And this guy is obsessed with this whole thing of, despite the other girl being very pushy and leaving him not really much of a choice to have sex with, they are in this world both old enough. Technically they are in ours, even though we don't want kids at that age having sex. And he is emotionally not much further in his development either. It's just that in his old life, yeah, he grew pretty old, but he didn't develop anywhere. So he would have just if he hadn't been caught by Trakun, while he also saved someone, by the way. So he got isekai'd into this world again for saving someone. If that hadn't happened, he would have just wasted away.
This is actually where I would try to also make like a rhetorical question: is like, would he acknowledge like a Tarzan scenario as something where the person wouldn't count as an adult? Like if you leave a child in the forest for 30 years and somehow that child lives and then comes out of the forest and knows nothing, would you consider that person to be a 40-year-old? Like would that be a functional adult?
Yeah,
he can't speak, he doesn't know anything.
It's kind of like with the people with mental blocks or retardation, or they are stuck in this was it growth level of let's say a teenager, even though they're in their 60s or 70s. It's how they developed genetically.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wouldn't put them on the same level as adults, essentially.
Yes, like I would really be curious if he would acknowledge that or not. Because like Rudius is almost the same thing. He's in one room, in one place for 30 years and he does nothing. How is that an adult?
I think the lefties generally have a problem putting these aspects of physical age, physical sexual maturity and mental maturity, emotional maturity together, because they always argue in extremes. It's either never until the magical number that your law in your country decides, or it is all children can consent to anything. It's always only extremes, and it is I'd say even more silly than the 5,000-year-old Kitsune demon excuse.
True.
Okay, 8 minutes in.
Unearned moments of Rudy talking about how people can change, when the only thing that has changed about him is his capability to go outside and expand his predator zone.
What?
Wrong. That's completely wrong. You're literally lying.
He's
also expanding his predator zone. That's a haha funny.
That is not even related to the narrative. He's inventing that Rudy is a predator because, again, he's 30 whatever years old, and now he's able to leave the house. He's going to prey on something.
Has he done
It's
that?
like he just completely ignored. Also, this Whisp, thanks for saying this. Who has he preyed on? Like I'm continuously thinking. It's like when, especially like in his comment section, it's like, who has Rudy groomed? Nobody. Who?
The more I hear of this guy, the less I want him to be a teacher.
Like what did Rudius do? Like seriously, who did he groom? Who? Ares? How? Sylphie? How? He just was a friend to her. He undressed her once so he can take a bath because he thought she was a boy. Okay, is that grooming? Like, how is he a predator? He groped someone and then learned that that's bad, and now he feels bad about it whenever he does it. So he's a predator? Question mark. He learned from his mistakes, something that you say he doesn't do. Like he's just lying at this point.
Well, he did call himself a dumb guy on YouTube with 10k subs, so I guess we can call him dumb and get away with it. So
A dumb guy should not be a teacher.
Yes.
all right.
The story portrays the horrible things he does to children as bad things, sometimes even playing them off as gags, like when he talks about grooming a 5-year-old girl and rolls around in his bed calling her name as a joke. Rudeus changes so little, in fact, that one of the first things he does in Season 2 is attempt to, quote, wait for the right moment as a 15-year-old girl gets drunk so that he can have sex with her.
She likes him. He's not... He likes her. What is wrong with you?
He's trying to do the 30-year-old thing again because he says, oh, she's 15.
What is wrong
He's
with
also
you?
15. He's the same age.
When you like each other, you don't just start jumping each other's bones. You have to. There's a certain order of escalation with anything.
Also, this is actually a good point. It's like waiting for the right moment is a normal thing. That's not bad. It's like, yeah, he's trying to build a relationship. Like,
he is super
hello,
conscious.
I want to have sex with you right now.
Yeah,
it's
he's super
It's not
conscious
over.
and overtly. What's the term that I can't remember what the guy was saying? The guy who he ends up joining the party later because he's super formal with everything he says. He's very agreeable, and the guy sees right past that. He says, "You're just way too nice. This is fake. You're acting weird." And it's like, yeah, he is, because he's very scared of hurting people. He wants to get along, and he wants to make money, and he wants to make sure everything's okay. And then he's with this girl. He's like, oh shit, I like this girl too. And she likes me. What am I going to do about it? Hey, I know. I'll play it safe. I'll think of what to do next in the proper order, like a normal person would do when you're
And
with
then he
someone.
shows on screen how she leans into him. She leans on him. She's initiating it.
Mm-hmm.
Thinks he's gonna say,
Oh, it's his 30-year-old. He's grooming the 50-year-old.
yeah, he's getting her drunk to make her easier to seduce or whatever.
He's being a predator. He's expanding his predator zone.
Turns out that he has erectile dysfunction. Solving his ED becomes one of his primary motivating factors, and because some girls broke one of his predator figurines, he restrains them.
Predator Are you serious right now?
Predator figurine.
He made an amazing sculpture of the one woman he admires in the whole world, more than probably anything. And it's a predator figurine. Are you serious right now? I could take this video and take it apart every sentence like we've been doing and just laugh and make a video on this if I wanted to. But we're doing it now. But everything this guy is saying, I hate when we cover people like this. Like their whole response.
I can't help but imagine like a predator head on top of Roxy's sexy little figurine.
What does that even mean?
Predator figurine.
Can you imagine, like I'm gonna make Roxy look like a slut? Like, okay, is that
Someone in chat is like, he has ED. Yes, Rudy is at this point has erectile dysfunction. This is actually true. It's in the show. It's a plot point. He's traumatized because Ares left him, so he has
Yeah,
ED.
pretty major one at that.
Yes.
he really
It's really interesting because it's handled as a serious thing. It's not like a gag plot. It's he's actually traumatized.
This is real. Yeah, this is real trauma where your body does not communicate with your brain because of what happened to you, and it's completely psychological, which is fascinating. And they just went with that as if, oh, yeah, this is a normal thing. This is extremely rare thing, and even he doesn't understand it because there's no psychology in this world. There's no acupuncture or any kind of technique that they know of. So he just got to live with it. He says, I don't know what to do. Anyway, I completely neglected Super Chats. Let me get on with this. I was just laying back and I can't believe this guy. Anyway, the Caporal, he who sees sin is guilty of it. Check his browser. Okay.
I with prejudice hate this line. This is such a stupid belief that predators use this to fend off people who criticize them. If we, it is the excuse that just some guy brought up to defend cuties, calling the people who called it out as a pedo movie, a pro pedo movie, or made for by pedos, as they just call it that because they see it as sexual. The critics see it as sexual, so they are the predators, the pedophile. So don't use this. This is a dumb line. Yes, it's sometimes the line "it takes one to know one" is true, because that's a speaking from experience. But it is not the be all and end all.
The best argument we use is projection. That you see the thing you dislike, and you hate it for that when it's not there, or whatever the argument is. So,
well, projection is also the when you're guilty of it, you put out things. That is part of projection. But you can also see it when it has been done to you, because you know the fucking pattern. That doesn't mean that you're guilty of the deed. No. You have been wounded by the deed, and therefore you know it.
All right. Here is the next one from Copperal. What's his opinion on the movie Big with Tom Hanks? Yeah, he's not going to like that one either. That would not work within his mindset. A child in a 20 or 30-year-old body working at a toy company. Yeah. And try. Remember the sleep? I don't know if you guys saw the movie, but he had a sleepover with a lady. The lady's like, "Okay, we're gonna get it on." He's like, "Here's a nightlight, so you go to bed, okay? Good night." They're on bunk beds.
That just sounds like the innocent version of Forrest Gump.
Forrest Gump, yeah. Oh boy.
It's one of them to see if he can get his dick hard again. No, again, I'm not making this up. Nobody really cares that he does this at all, because the series...
That's a good experiment. Squeezing a woman's breast, going, do I feel anything from this? No. Therefore, this isn't going to help.
He completely leaves out the fact that these two are troublemakers in the school.
And they tried to beat the shit out of each other. And
But they're women, so they're innocent.
And they won.
All women are always innocent and never initiate. They don't have any agency, so they can't sexually assault anyone.
And this is
when they sexually assault you, then you have sexually assaulted them.
This is after he already went to a professional to make sure that something was going on, and nothing happened. So it's like, okay, maybe it's a different scenario. Maybe it's a different person. Try with a different person. Didn't work. Okay, I'm screwed. I don't know what to do.
Yeah. And Daniel Chico in the chat, he puts it well. He says, there are many, many examples of real pedos publicly criticizing anime young characters not long before they get arrested.
Wasn't there like the famous guy on Twitter, like with something like Mr. Pizza or something? Like that was literally like his account name, and he was like tweeting about like how bad lollies are, and then there was like, and next day there was like a news article of him getting arrested.
Yeah,
wasn't that like a thing?
Something like it happens once in a while, and the pattern or what's behind it, how this makes sense, I would guess is that the fictional characters, the drawn characters, the anime caricatures, basically the cartoons, they don't do anything for these types of people, so they can virtue signal about it, because if they fight that and that gets banned, they don't lose anything, because the stuff they actually consume, the real stuff, it won't be touched by that. They get that anyway.
So basically it doesn't look real enough for them.
Yeah, so they can attack
they try to
for...
blend in by being against it.
Yeah, because they don't lose any of their precious resource with it, because the actual stuff they get through illegal sources anyway.
I do remember the joke from the girl he does grope, saying, and you can play with what's her name's breasts if you do this, like whatever the deal they're trying to make. And it's played off as a joke, because obviously the other girl doesn't want that, and she keeps trying to make the same deal with Rudy. So, these scenarios, the context matters, the scene matters, the consequence of these women's actions matter. So it's like, yeah, should he have groped her? Probably not, but considering his problem, that's one of his plots. So yeah, he's going to be interested in whether or not this is a problem or this is a solvable issue, and this is a possible solution. So yeah, not a good move, but that's what the character's trying to solve. So anyway. The Copperell, one more time. I mean, projection. I'm trying to be fancy. Yeah, exactly. It's fine. Totally fine.
Yeah, that's okay. But just that is a dumb line. You can cross that out from your dictionary or whatever you call it. It's a very sore spot for me, because I am so sick of people being accused of the things that were done to them.
Okay.
Doing the things that were done to them. It is the peak of gaslighting.
With the expectations of a wish fulfillment power fantasy harem anime, where the protagonist who gets isekai gets sent to a world where he will never get punished for anything he does or thinks, the world being finally crafted for his abhorrent existence. Now, let's go ahead and talk about the elephant in the room that I know everyone has probably already heard about. That the author took to Twitter a couple weeks ago to post about Rudy's thoughts on slavery, because an episode aired where Rudy went to go participate in the slave trade, to acquire a slave that can make more figurines for him and his friend. The author would state, quote, Rudy doesn't have any feelings of hatred for slavery. He feels like it's not necessarily the case that all slaves are universally unhappier as slaves than they would be before becoming slaves. So while kidnapping is evil, he can't say with certainty that slavery itself is evil and doesn't want to impose his own sense of justice upon a culture he is unfamiliar with. I want to make one thing clear. Depicting slavery, in my opinion, is not an inherently bad thing. It's a part of humanity that still persists to this day, and just like many fucked up aspects of human culture, it's something people tend to criticize or show the abhorrence of in media. The issue comes in 3 parts. 1, Rudy's motivation to purchase a slave. 2,
There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong because everyone sits in a room or on the table and says, what should we do? How do we solve this problem? How about we get a talented slave? It's like, sure.
Also, there's like multiple aspects to this for like that lead to this decision. So I don't directly recall if it's mentioned in the anime, but like in the novel, it's explained that at the dorm that they're staying, there is like restrictions on who can actually live there, and one of those that are allowed in terms of like assistance is a slave. Like slaves are allowed to stay with you in the dorms. So since they don't have the option to just hire someone that can make the figurines because they wouldn't be allowed to stay, this is one of the reasons that leads to them opting for a slave.
Yeah, and there's nothing inherently wrong with purchasing a slave in this world. You are.
But then there's also the other aspect that the author mentioned, like when he explained why Rudius thinks this way, which I think is actually really funny because this exact thing happened in Game of Thrones, where like the author says that Rudius doesn't think that slavery inherently makes people unhappier. This is literally true, because like in Game of Thrones, there's like this thing where like the slaves get freed. And now they're fucked. They have nothing, and they intentionally go back to slavery because they want to live, and they have no other way to live.
Yeah, they had no alternative presented to them. The economic system breaks down. It's, by the way, one of the big problems that happened in the United States in the South when the slaves were freed en masse all of a sudden without anything to replace that system. And it's like a slow transition, for example. And that's how the big cities then got flooded with all these basically black rednecks, as Thomas Sowell puts it, that were uneducated, and well, we see that culture still persists today, and it is not very helpful to the people living in that culture.
It's even a thing in the Mushoku world as well. It's like that Noel explains it more. It's like slavery is deeply rooted in all of their countries and like all of their economy.
Yeah.
So like,
and the question is, what kind of slavery system do you have? They've had different names than slavery throughout human history. In some way, you can accuse the German social security system of basically being slavery towards the state, because as long as you are not like chronically disabled, the state can tell you to do this or that work and if you don't, well, you don't get any more social security. That is basically the same thing. You have a giant workforce that works for the least money available, or the least money that can get, and you can force them to do so. So you're basically a slave to the state. The left doesn't have any problem with it. It is rather promoting it. And then the question is, what are the rights that the slaves have?
I'm trying to remember who was it, Sowell or someone else. They were looking at the poorest countries in the world, and they were looking at it's like sweatshops, for example. Mm-hmm. And they were saying, what's the alternative to sweatshops? Like, there is no alternative. Like, that's all you have. So if you don't have the sweatshops, the society is gone. There's nothing. So you either move to where there are jobs of some kind, or you die. Like, there's no option. So with the slave trade, these people are effectively doing nothing, waiting to live. When you buy a slave in this world, yeah, you could be a horrible slave owner, or you could be a horrible owner to this person, or you could treat them with respect, give them a job, give them a purpose, give them food and clothing, which is what happens. This is all altruistic.
And it's even mentioned again, like in the author's comments, where it's like Rudius doesn't know if it inherently makes them unhappier, but he thinks that kidnapping is evil, which we know from season 1, because like the big issue with the Doldia clan in the jungle was that they were like killing and kidnapping them, and so Rudius is like, no, that's wrong. I'm gonna prevent that. And like this idea that Rudius should like stop slavery, when like one of his main aspects is that he doesn't want to be a hero. He just wants to be a guy. And if he were to like say like he frees the slaves that are with Juliet, like how many was it, like I don't know, like all of the ones that were with Juliet, if he frees them, he literally becomes a wanted person of multiple countries, because that's how intrinsic the slavery aspect is to their economy. He would literally start a war if he were to do this. It's the opposite of what he wants to do.
Yeah, well,
he's also not obligated to save them. Like, why him?
Yeah, but that's a naive way of thinking of people like this guy, who always want everything right now, this instant, black and white extreme.
Well,
which is exactly what led to this disaster in the United States of not transitioning the sovereign slaves out of that system into a better culture. And Lincoln was explicitly against this because he saw this disaster coming if you would just snap your fingers and abolish the thing in an instant. That's what he was criticized about, that he was not extreme enough.
This is I don't know if you guys heard a Bill Burr joke the past few years about if you were around like 100, 200 years ago, well, obviously 200 years ago, when the slaves were still occurring in the States. And he's like, well, yeah, I'd totally be part of the railroad helping out. It's like, no, you wouldn't. You might even own slaves. That's the cult. You wouldn't be like trying to start a revolution. You get yourself killed. We like, does this guy expect Rudy to just like, oh, slaves are bad, therefore I'm going to destroy the entire system of this medieval?
Yeah, it's like Rudius is like obligated to like free all the slaves and like become a wanted person and start multiple civil wars because this person feels bad and he needs to do this. It's like, why?
He has so many other problems, and this is where this Californian is projecting his power fantasy into the story. Where he wants it to be.
And as I said before, I don't know if I said this during the stream or before, he picks the slave that no one wants, has been there, is on the verge of death, like has no skills that anyone else would care about, and she's about to give up on life right when they meet her. And he breathes new life into her. She's a beautiful young little child who delights in earth magic. And it's like, wow, you just introduced a character to the story by saving her life. And it doesn't matter if he did it heroically or financially, it's the same result. So
this is also something that like I talk to people with on the Discord as well. It's like, from his perspective, instead of saving the slave by buying them, like he just thinks you should let them die. Like, just don't buy them. Just let them die, because that's apparently morally superior to saving the person. Just don't participate in slavery and let them die.
This is one of the arguments I mentioned, but I remember we talked about this before the stream. Why didn't Lincoln just buy the slaves? That would have saved us a lot of time and money than going to war, getting everyone killed, spending all this money on weapons and armament. It's like, just buy the slaves, free them, get them to work, or give them their own land, whatever you want to do with them. Like, that would have been a much more economical humanitarian solution. Whether it was financially possible, I don't know. But considering the after effect of a civil war, I think it probably was. So anyway, this is a simple, not pro-con argument, but just look at what the alternatives are, and you'll come to the same solution as us. Is yes, buying the slave was a win-win for everyone involved.
Yeah, and also Rudy has enough of his own greater problems already to deal with, and to start another personal crusade for completely different reasons. Where in a world that currently sort of works.
And this
And he doesn't need to cause another complete breakdown.
And this is just a minor plot point. It doesn't even get brought up at all. The girl's just there, always in the background, helping out Zabu, whatever his name is. Zabu, I can't remember his name. That Zenoba, yeah, who just wants someone to help him magic to make sculpture. So it's just a plot point in one episode. That's it. It's fine.
Yeah. And in the chat, Daniel Chico, no slaves were brought into the United States by that time. The laws already forbade that. And Frog Jupiter, that sounds super interesting. You can, I urge you to post that in my channel on the server. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Let's keep going.
Market in the anime, and 3, the author's
Well, let's go rewind that because he has 3 points to make.
clear. Depicting slavery, in my opinion, is not an inherently bad thing. It's a part of humanity that still persists to this day, and just like many fucked up aspects of human culture, it's something people tend to criticize or show the abhorrence of in media. The issue comes in 3 parts. 1, Rudy's motivation to purchase a slave. 2, the portrayal of the slave market in the anime, and 3, the author's comment and how it pertains to Rudy's character.
Okay, so he doesn't like the depiction of slaves in the market, which I don't see the huge problem with it. They're naked, some of them, and the rest are in chains. They're in cells.
Pretty standard.
It's like we literally had this in season 1 already when he walked past like with the smugglers and he sees like all the slaves in the cages and you see him physically cringe. He's like oh god, this is awful. Like we know Rudy's opinion on this.
Yeah, and then he frees them.
He just doesn't feel like he should be the one to say what should be done here. He's just a guy.
Yeah.
Like he's not even like a political leader. Like what is he supposed to do?
It's as if this guy wants a different story than what was depicted because I don't know, he just doesn't like slavery for some reason.
He wants Rudy to go around and fix all the problems because he needs to be redeemed. He needs to be a good person.
That in a story that is supposed to be about how Rudy has grown and changed from his previous lifestyle, it is an extremely hard pill to swallow that he is of the belief that slavery is not evil. Now, actually, believe it or not, this is actually...
That is not what the author said. That's not what he said. He said that Rudy believes that slavery does not inherently make the slaves unhappier. That's what he said. He said kidnapping is evil. He didn't say slavery is not evil. That's not what he said.
fairly consistent with Rudy's past characterization.
You really like
Someone
showing
who
the
has no
scene.
respect for the autonomy of others and regularly grooms, takes advantage of, or sexually assaults people.
Where does he groom anyone? What is he?
He regularly grooms and assaults people. Where does he groom anybody in the show? When does that happen?
Fondling the redhead when she's sleeping, yes, that is a bad thing.
Right, but in terms of teaching...
But that's not grooming, though. He's not grooming
of,
anyone.
Doing anything predatory. All he does is teach Sylphie magic. He teaches, what's her name, the slave, how to form like rock formations to make like she's throwing pebbles with her hand. She's teaching Eris basic stuff. She's teaching Ghislaine magic and language. So he's teaching everyone or a lot of people a lot of things, but he's not grooming them.
Yes, like I'm trying to like come up with even the slightest idea. Like, who has he groomed?
Yeah.
He's like, what? He has done nothing to Sylphie. He has done nothing with Ares. He has done nothing with Roxy. The others are all adults. How is he supposed to groom them? It's like, who has he groomed? He hasn't done anything. Like, you could even argue that, like, out of all the three initial girls, he treated Sylphie the best. He just treated her like a friend. He barely acts sexual with her. That one time where in the bed he, like, hugs his pillow and he's like, oh, Sylphie. That was more childish than sexual. Like, he was hugging his pillow. Like, what?
Lack of care for this particular topic, and lack of any hesitation when it comes to actually participating in the slave trade is completely in line with what we know about Rudy.
What is wrong? Again, what is wrong with buying a slave in this story?
to save a life.
It is a good thing. You are freeing someone from bondage, at least within the context of where they're
You
kept.
know what? I give him this point. It is completely in line with Rudy that he would save a person like this. He's right. It is in line with his character. Yes.
The thing is, in this instance, boycotting the slave trade is not going to just end it or universally good, because we are not talking about products, lifeless products, like I don't know anything that any company shits out, but we're talking about human beings. And he is saving someone by buying that someone. That's very different from buying a slave to have a slave worker.
Also, this is like one market out of like thousands in other countries. Like, just because he buys, nobody here does nothing. Also, if he doesn't buy Juliet here, she literally dies. She was on the verge of dying.
What I'm saying.
If nobody
That's what I'm saying.
This is
That's
so
what I'm
cringe.
saying.
He
He's saving a life.
Yes.
Okay.
100%.
And this guy is saying, "Don't save a life."
All right.
Yeah, he said, let her die.
Yeah. All right.
Let her die. It's slavery.
Yeah. So
Pretty misogynistic.
one more super chat on the Lincoln thing, because I brought it up. Lincoln didn't want to free the slaves because he supported the Corwin Act, permanent slavery in the U.S. All he cared about was the railroad taxes. All right, I don't know my history with America, so I'll let you have that one.
It's a bit simplified, but
Anyway, don't worry. Not on topic. Let's keep going.
So, Libra Wolf in the chat said Rudius is not a revolutionary fighter. That's true.
That's
He's
a good
not.
point.
Yeah.
It's literally not his character.
He's not here to start a war. That's true.
Redemption story, it's a story about a bad person getting away with being a bad person while the story shoves down your throat that he's improving.
So
he is improving.
Is he improving or not? Since it's shoved down your throat.
How was he in his old life a bad person?
Outside of not leaving his room, he didn't really do anything.
He stood up for other people,
worst
and
thing
he
that he
only
did
got
in his old
punished
life.
or killed for it.
Yeah.
The worst thing in his old life was that he didn't go to his parents' funeral.
Yeah,
That's
but
like the
that's-
only thing I can mention.
Yeah, but that is a result of all the prior shit.
Yeah,
It is sad. It is truly sad. It is truly tragic. But if you look at the life story, no, he's not become a monster. He's become incapable.
There's very little about his story. I do remember the one scene with his friend who came over and says, "Hey, do you want to go out and do whatever it was they wanted to go out and do?" Was it school related or club related? I can't remember.
Like his friend like says, like his friend is jealous. He says, "Oh, I wish I could be at home all day and play video games." Like, he freaks out on him because he's like, "Are you crazy? I don't want this. I want to go outside and do all these things, but I can't." So he blows up, and that is how he loses his last friend.
Yeah.
And that was like the last person he meets in years. So, yeah.
And I'd even disagree with his excuse that he makes for himself, that his friend only wanted to cheer him up, and that was his type of humor. If his friend had that empathy, he wouldn't have made that sort of joke.
Yeah, I think it was just a bad friend.
It wouldn't say it's a bad friend; it's an inept friend. Because it's the same as if joking to someone who doesn't have legs anymore and is stuck at home because of that. Like, we rolled on a couple centuries, and then says, "Oh, I wish I could stay at home and not have legs." It is the same meaning. It is basically insulting you for your problem without necessarily intending to, or trying to put out like, "Hey, look at the positive side of it." But it doesn't feel like that, because this positive side is not a positive side for you in that situation.
All right, we're almost 11 minutes in. This is, again, every sentence he has said that we pause on has a huge problem with.
Certainly uses the logic of "not my culture, not my wheelhouse" to further distance himself from his participation in slavery.
Oh my God, dude. What do you want him to do? Do you want him to start a revolution to rise up all the slaves?
He must have the exact political positions as him. Sorry, Ken?
No, it's like, again, based on the additional context from how the novel explains the world. If he saves, even like quote unquote save, like he doesn't bite them, he like kills the slavers and like frees them or something. This would literally start like multiple civil wars. Like it would be complete chaos. It would ruin several economies, and it would make him like a wanted man. And not only that, but if he were to do that, he literally has no resources. He's like a guy with a party of like what, 5 people? Like what is he gonna do if like a bunch of countries come for his head?
Doesn't
He's
matter.
dead.
Doesn't matter. This Californian just wants the main character to have his political
Yes,
convictions.
slavery makes me feel bad, so I need the character to save all the slaves, even though he would die doing that.
This is like if you're dropped in a magical land and you're against, I don't know, eating meat from animals. You're a vegetarian or vegan or whatever, and all you see around you is a bunch of restaurants or taverns that they kill animals. And he'd be like, "Oh, I gotta stop all these people from killing animals." It's like, are you sure about that? The food source of an entire civilization.
It's kind of similar to those usually women who insist that characters have to be gay or something, or shippers. It's basically like shipping, just that the main character needs to be shipped with the political conviction of the shipper.
Well, yeah, but even if it was like a legal issue, like, oh, women can't work, it's like, what do you want him to do? To like fight the aristocracy and say, listen, women have to work because I said so, and they're gonna laugh at you. They're gonna kick you out.
What? Women have to work? You don't. That's slavery.
Well, no, because if a world where women don't work and all you come do is knock on their door and say, well, women should have equal rights, and you're like, no, they don't.
Once again, he's completely ignoring the first season where he already saved slaves that he was able to save. He already did that. There was something he did. It objectively happened in the story.
Yeah.
He prevented the kidnapping and he saved people that already got enslaved. And we're just gonna ignore that?
People online defend him with, and also saying that if you existed in the early 1700s, you would also partake in the slave trade, because it was the normal, right? First things first, let us remember that Rudy wasn't born in this world. He was born in the modern day where people already knew that slavery was not good. So if you believe that
That doesn't matter. He was born in this world. He is accepting of its How do you expect an individual to change culture all because you don't like slaves? No one likes slaves in the real world. We get it. But this is not the real world. This is a fictional story of a guy trying to fix his erectile dysfunction, essentially, at that point in the story. How do you expect him to take on the slave trade of the planet?
I'm going to fix my erectile dysfunction by ending slavery.
Ending slavery. Like, what are you talking about? How does that work? You can't just make your own narrative. Oh, the order should be this way. There's injustice.
Since there's a manga about everything, including repairing heaters, I'm plumbing. I am sure there is a manga that has the topic that he wants.
There are
where you fix erectile dysfunction with ending slavery.
Yes, I am sure that manga exists.
That would be
it is more, and at this point, it is more unlikely it doesn't exist.
That time I was reincarnated with erectile dysfunction, and I had to end slavery to cure it.
And it probably includes a funny drawn comic relief duck character.
I'm actually trying to remember the name of a manga I watched. It was turned into an anime that was cut short, and they had like one of those. Sorry?
No, forget it. Come on.
All right, it's literally about a guy who buys slaves to go into a dungeon with him, and he has like this magic sword that it's called Durandal that can suck magic and health, and he has these gifts from, and he just keeps acquiring powers. Like he learns magic, but he keeps buying slaves. They're all hot chicks, and he sleeps with them, and they love him because he takes care of them, and he's an amazing guy, and he builds a house for them, and they go.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. It's what's it called? It's like There's like one of the girls is like a
A
dog
dog.
girl.
The first one's a
something,
dog.
And like one of them is a dwarf.
Yeah, and she's like a big titty girl, and she's amazing. And the second girl is a dwarf, and she's tiny and svelte.
Yeah, I know that one, but I don't remember the name right now.
And if you actually watch the anime, the last episode, they just slam all the unpublished manga where all these chicks come out of nowhere. Like, who are these big boob the girls from slave trade? Like, I don't know, but they all love the guy. And the manga hasn't even gotten to that point where those characters are introduced yet. But they just shoved it down everyone's throats because they had no more episodes to make. But that's a heartwarming story. That's a guy struggling hard to try to make it through the day, and he just wants an easy life. He goes to dungeons with his slave chicks. They get stronger. They love him for it. They're like, wow, you're so strong. How do you do this? All these wonderful items, all this wonderful food. You're paying us. We're giving equipment. We have a place to live. You're creating baths, hot water. This is incredible. And it's like, we should destroy all this slave. Like, no, that's not the story, buddy.
Within a generation, he will be elevated to godhood, and shrines will be built in his name. As the bringer of culture.
Libra Wolf in the comments in the chat said, "Isn't there a manga where women enslave men as a part of the world culture?" Yes.
Yes. Oh God,
called
don't read
like
those.
Matu slave something.
Yeah, don't.
Like,
those are the one that
there's like a demon thing, and there's like the entire military is women, because when the women eat like a fruit, they get like special powers, and it only works on women. Like the main character becomes like a slave of the main female.
the one that I remember, the whole world gets infected by a disease, and the only people who are alive, or it kills all the men. The only men who are alive.
World's End Harem.
Yes, and it's because he has MS, and they find the cure for MS, and they have to repopulate the world. You're like, okay, that's it. All the women, everyone's in charge is women, and there's all these cults and trying to vie for semen. And oh my God, it's just
there's like women's sex cults and everything.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
It's like, this is nuts. Anyway. And they still have the obnoxious Japanese mentality, male mentality. I'm not going to touch a girl. I'm very.
Yes.
It's like, oh my God, dude, this is retarded.
It's like all the side characters already slept with the women. It's only the main character that sleeps with nobody.
This breaks my brain. Anyway, the Caporal, one more time. Thank you, sir. I made a lowly con with slaves as a gag, maybe new MC. Yeah. Go. There's plenty of reverse harems out there. And some of them are decent. I have read a few. So, you know.
Tyler Preston mentioned it in the chat. It's like the Mato Seto slave manga. They changed the English name to Chained Soldier because they don't want to have slavery in the title. I remembered it. They removed slavery from the English title. That was so cringe. The original title was like something like slave of the magic capital's demon core or something, and then they changed the name to Chained Soldier because Twitter was complaining that slavery was in the name.
Yeah, this
so is it's the S word now.
Yeah, this is the inherent problem with people with this sort of mentality. I don't even. This is not even an ideology. This is just a person who says, nope, these settings I do not agree with. Therefore, this story is bad. The character is a pedophile, slave worship, what is it? Slave apologist, whatever you want to call him, blah, blah, blah. This is nonsense. You either respect the setting of the author and it makes sense, and in Mushoku Tensei it does, and it's a good thing when Rudy uses the slave trade to free a slave and give them a better life. Or you're blinded by your mentality of this being slavery is always bad, therefore this is a bad story and a bad character and blah, blah, blah. He can't see past his own nose. This is a very bad case of that, but...
Yes, and when we get to the point that it's part of the Newspeak dictionary where we're not allowed to use the word and invent nonsense like double plus ungood instead of saying bad.
What?
Because that's what this is. That's what this is. We have to say something else now because the word itself is... Have you never read 1984?
I don't remember that. No.
Double plus ungood is the key word to describe Newspeak.
I must have forgotten that. Oh my god.
Yeah, it's forbidden to say negative things.
Yeah, okay.
So in order to describe something as bad, you say double plus ungood.
Okay.
Double plus ungood.
Double plus ungood.
Fair enough. Okay.
You to a time period or a world where it was accepted, and you would participate in that market, that is an unfortunate self-report. Additionally, assuming
What?
that everyone back when slavery existed was a fan of it is a reductionist historical viewpoint and a factually wrong one at that. Let's take for example the United States. Patrick Henry,
Why?
the first governor
Why?
of Virginia in the United States back in 1776.
I don't care.
He's so obsessed with this topic, he has to bring up history shit. Hey, how about you
you
talk
know
about
that in the U.S. the slaves there was this person and he didn't like slavery.
Yeah. Okay. We're advancing.
how about you instead talk about I don't know old Akkad or something Hammurabi's law.
Oh god.
It has laws about slavery and how to treat them right and how they can gain their freedom. And if you don't treat your slaves right, they will be taken away from you because you're basically animal abuse.
Short story. Everything in that is eye for an eye. So if you
This is one of those people that would absolutely not acknowledge that like every single person and culture at some point in history was a slave.
And eye for an eye is
It was
basically
everyone.
just eye for an eye is basically just a proto version of don't do unto others what you don't want done unto yourself.
but practically made into law. So if you do anything wrong, you're probably going to die or lose everything.
It is more nuanced in practice, but yeah, I keep making jokes.
Yeah. Okay.
I think in
also
some
ignores the
instances
fact
we
that,
should
like,
it also
Well-
included, and that is something that we are missing in modern law, and that anytime I tell people about it, they agree, yeah, kind of that's missing, is part of this eye for an eye thing is, if you falsely accuse someone of something, and it is proven that you did so maliciously, not just out of ignorance, then the punishment that the person would get for having been convicted, if the false accusation would have, not been found as false, then the false accuser, the false accuser gets punished with what the accusation would be punished for.
Yeah, the fact that is not a thing is so crazy. Well, that should actually be a thing.
We'd
Yeah.
have less legislation going past, less laws. We'd have less court proceedings. Everything would nothing would happen. in
Like
court.
all these false claims would completely die down if like the punishment for like figuring out that you actually lied is that now you get to be punished with what you accused the person of. Like that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let's get back on topic. 12 minutes in, nearing the 2-minute mark, but we already know we're off the rails. So
This is a uniquely American perspective on the issue, and I am of course not
Yes.
saying that slavery is only an American thing. It was, and still is, a global issue. And I'm sure people will
Thank
dismiss
you.
this discussion because of my use of American history, because the author is from Japan. Let us disregard that Japan also has a history of slavery. During World War II, the Japanese
Shut
military worked
up.
with civilians and prisoners of war as forced labor on projects such as the Burma Railway. And according to Korean historians, 60,000 conscripted Koreans would end up dying from exhaustion and poor working conditions.
don't care.
So Rudy, coming from a world that has had a studied battle about slavery, has no negative feelings about the practice. And all
You are
That doesn't mean that he had it in school, you idiot. You're supposed to be a teacher. Lay down
Also,
your
again,
license. Work in a
he's-
supermarket.
He's lying again because like that's not what the author said. He keeps saying this. Rudius, like nothing about what the author said that Rudius thinks that slavery isn't bad. That wasn't said. What he said was that Rudius is not sure if being a slave means that you're inherently unhappier, which is literally factual. That you cannot refute this claim. There is slaves that want to be slaves because otherwise they die. They have nothing else. This is true.
The benefit is you know where you stand in life, and if somebody buys you, you'll be employed. Not all slavery is working on a field until you die. Some of it is as it was practiced in Rome, for example, being the teacher for the children. And that for life, for generations. Like you'll be the teacher for 3 generations.
It's like what you brought up. It's like it's not every form of slavery is not like this cartoonish American view of slavery where it's like, oh, it's the black person, they get whipped and called the N-word and they get abused all the time. Like,
Yeah, that's
not
what the
every
Chinese do
form
in
of
Africa.
slavery. So that, yeah. But that's like not every form of slavery is that thing. Some people only have that. It's like, again, if we take Juliet from the anime, like if she isn't bought, she dies. Like, again, that's factual. You cannot deny this. If Rudius doesn't buy her, if he leaves, she's dead the next day. She was completely malnourished. She had like no will to live. And the novel adds additional context that her parents were already sold. So she has no idea what happened to them. The parents are gone forever, possibly. It's like she has nothing. And he gave her a new life. But that's bad because he bought a slave.
Which is pretty much what he did with Sylphie. He helped Sylphie. He made her strong, gave her the ability to do chantless magic. And they look at Rudy like he's this genius, and he is, and he improves everyone's life, essentially, who he comes across, who he wants to help.
In these instances, you could even say that he who got a second chance is able to provide others with second chances and gives them for free.
Yes, this is
Out
this
of the
is
goodness
a
of
very
his
good
heart.
reading of the story. It's like he uses his second chance to give others second chances. This is even like if we go back to like episode, was it 21, when like Orsted shows up and like he implies that there's like some kind of narrative. Like he's like, oh wait, you say you're Paul's son, but Paul shouldn't have a child. Like he implies that there's like a set narrative that's supposed to happen. And Rudius isn't supposed to be in the story, which is obvious. He is a reincarnation. But this would imply that what's supposed to happen is that Rudius shouldn't be here, which would mean that all the people that he helped wouldn't have been helped. Like all these good things that he did wouldn't exist. Like is that not noteworthy for his character? That he changed something that was like fate. He changed fate for other characters. I don't know.
Okay.
The concept of getting a slave to make figurines, he instantly jumps on board with it, zero hesitation. Because, as mentioned earlier, Rudy has no problem with participating in an act that strips someone of their own agency.
No, it
stripping them
doesn't.
of their right to be compensated for their labor.
They are
the-
compensated.
What was his agency in having to have sex with the redhead when he didn't want to?
Well, it's like I'm in bondage. I can't move past this cell, and now he's suddenly stripping her of her agency by freeing her from the cell so she can run around.
He's stripping her of her agency by saying, "Hey, you can live with us. You can do what you want, but I want you to occasionally make some figures, and then you can do what you want again." It's like, okay, she has no agency now. He basically has a job.
Didn't they have the whole like kind of like Shield Hero with the slave crest? And they said that that's a thing in this world, but they chose not to do that to Juliet. Or am I misremembering?
I don't remember.
I could have swore that, at least in the anime, I don't remember that in the light novel, but I could have swore in the anime that it was like glossed over in the time that she was the little montage of her learning things.
I'll have to rewatch that episode to make sure there's a magical crest. Is it on her neck?
No, that's what I'm saying. That they sidestepped that. They said that that's a thing that can be done, but they choose not to.
Right.
But maybe I'm mistaken.
Yeah, most of
things.
these isekai stories have like a slave collar or magical crest that keeps the slave in check and prevents them from harming their master. I don't remember that actually in this one, so
could be I'm just misremembering.
Yeah, honestly, it's hard to follow because this plot is used so many times.
Yeah, it's very tropey.
Yeah.
At this point. But
it was done very beautifully in Mushoku Tensei because of her tragedy of this little girl who didn't have a chance at life, and all of a sudden Rudy comes out of nowhere and just puts her arms around her, or I think he just touched her shoulder.
I don't think this guy even remotely thinks about what the alternative path would be for that girl.
Yeah, as I said,
or
with
by any of the characters
It
that
just
he
doesn't. It just doesn't exist. It's just that his actions are wrong, but he doesn't think of how these lives would continue without his actions.
yeah, as I said about the sweatshop, if your only opportunity is a sweatshop, it is better than nothing. You will die. You need something to.
Also,
keep
like
yourself
if you remember the bullying scene with Sylvie, like one of the children was like picking up a rock to throw
Yeah.
at her. So like if he wasn't there, she could have like either get seriously hurt or she could have died if he threw it at her head.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
So like
this is a typical measurement of a character who has flaws. No one's saying Rudy's perfect, but if you compare it to all the good things he's done, they outshine a huge amount compared to his perversions and being a little kid and playing antics and forcing Sylvie to take her clothes off. Like it's like this is like immaterial.
For complaining that Rudy is too much of a good guy and power fantasy and whatnot, he is demanding of him to be even more perfect.
Yeah, you need.
yeah, like he says he's perfect, but he's actually not. But he demands him to be. He needs to save all the slaves. He needs to get, and then he makes the argument he needs to get like his dreams ruined or something because he's a bad person. It's like,
Now you know.
so he needs to save the slaves, but also he's not allowed to have good things because he did some bad things. So you need to ruin all the things that he likes, but also he needs to be completely selfless and he needs to start wars to save all the slaves. Like,
was that
he has
apparently
an
also
endless
don't
list
kill
of
anyone
expectations.
because that would be bad. I don't know.
Interestingly enough, he hasn't said anything about that. He hasn't mentioned killing at all yet.
Well, we're still waiting for that
the
sex
thing-
that is going to be permissible because
Yeah,
I'm
but
still.
the
God, that's gonna be so funny.
I think he's a
He
great
brings-
example to help us understand as to why leftists are only capable of writing Mary Sue characters. Because that's what they demand of the characters.
Maybe I would say within the context of an existing story, they want the idea. Like, there's nothing wrong with wanting an idealized character. That's what writing essentially is. You write an idealized world, idealized characters, doing idealized things. That's the fantasy in your head. In this case, they see, well, because there's a thing I completely disagree with, therefore the story must go this direction, or the character is evil, the writer is horrible, blah blah blah, which is ridiculous. Like it's like, I want to be the writer. It is my job because I hate this thing. Therefore, current year politics must dictate that we abolish slavery or something. It's very egotistical, it's very selfish, and it's almost childish to think that a story is dictated to be bad because it doesn't adhere to what I think is a proper progression of the story, which is dumb because if you dislike slavery, guess what? You're going to have slavery in the story so that you could say, aha, this is how I want slavery dealt with. You would want depictions of rape and killing and mass murder and whatever horrific conflict you don't like, or else you're just going to have a bunch of children's stories with nothing happening. And even children's stories have rape and not rape, but murder and death and poisoning and killing. You have to teach kids something. So if you want this neutered pixies and fairies, happy-go-lucky, silly story of I don't know, kids stubbing their toes and going, oh, that's wrong, you should look where you're walking, meh, 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 then great, write those stories, see how they sell.
That's why the original Grimm's fairy tales were dark.
Oh yeah, yeah, they're fantastic.
And they're just versions of all these stories. Like the Snow White story has 100 iterations all across Europe.
Oh God, my brain is still reeling from that crazy actress last month.
Oh God,
of what?
Oh, Rachel Zegler.
What she implied that the writers are going to do with that classic story. That she doesn't need no prince or dwarves to save her. It's like, then what the hell the story is?
They literally made the seven dwarf into seven bandits. So it's now like the seven diverse Californian criminals.
On that note, so while there are probably 100 versions of that story, the one where Snow White needs no man is not one of them. However, there are versions where the 7 dwarves are instead 7 bandits. That is a thing. It's also 7 giants or 7 dragons.
Either way, they save her 3 times. The prince saves her once. The whole point of Snow White is she's this precious, special woman that suddenly got saved from the first attempt at her life, and everyone sees this except the evil queen. And that's the story. She gets saved by men and protected, and then she becomes princess or becomes queen. So it's a fairy tale. It's supposed to be that way. Anyway, we're getting off topic. I think we're at the 2-minute mark. Oh, no, not yet. Oh, jeez. 3 minutes. Okay.
Provide labor to, and their right to end that employment at any time. While this is going on, Mushoku Tensei is playing the literal generic upbeat happy town music as they stand around literal fucking commodified humans.
I don't think socialists should talk about the commodifying humans being bad, because that's what socialists always do.
Wait, how is the music in the background bad?
That music is not cheery.
Yes, it's just
very,
like
not dreary exactly, but
it has like, what's it called? Yeah, it has like somber tones. It's like I don't hear cheery music when I hear this.
Yeah, they're talking about
It's like
why
like more of the leitmotif that Mushoku already established with its music.
Yeah, and they're talking about why are they naked, and they're just standing there like statues. Like, what's going on? He doesn't know what's happening.
Yeah.
I just wanna make clear that his is the political side that refers to humans as bodies.
That is true.
I'm not even sure he's politically. I just think he's stupid. Like, there's no.
Yeah, that's the problem with. He's a useful idiot.
Okay.
No, he like buys into everything. Like I have like tons of. I used to be in this guy's Discord. There was like this month-long thing where I didn't say anything, and they had like I lived rent-free in their heads. They made up like narratives about it. It was like crazy until he banned me with this video. It's like I can show you guys after the stream. It was nuts.
Okay, so he's a universal useful idiot.
Okay.
Yes, he's
like the village bicycle.
Yeah,
useful idiots.
All right. Okay.
It's okay though, because he gives one solemn look briefly in the store before then immediately jumping to, I should kill this slave to free her, instead of any other option.
Wait. What?
Should?
What other
Or
option?
Should?
What? Also, he asks her because she's literally like she has no will to live. He's asking her, "Do you want to live?" That's what he's asking here. He's not saying, "I should kill her." That's not what he said.
What?
Yeah,
that's not what happens in the scene.
Things to a.
Also, again, he
almost
says like
extent.
Oh, go ahead, Drunken.
Oh, I was just saying that he misconstrues to. I was going to say comical, but it's practically evil at any given opportunity.
Like he says, until the things like all the other things he could have done. It's like, what could he have done? Like, what do you want him to do?
Yeah.
Like, okay, so he shouldn't buy the slave. He should, I don't know, like, what should he do? Should he free them? Because then again, he starts a war. He's gonna get several people are gonna want to kill him. He's gonna be in a civil war. Like, what do you want him to do? What other options? He says there's several options. What are they?
Yeah.
What can he do?
And we just saw a cutscene, or I think we're about to see a flashback of her predicament, which is so sad that he can see this in her eyes, because I think he says this is similar to how I felt. I felt lifeless, hopeless.
This is like the thing in season 1 with like Ruchard. It's like it's a continuous thing that like Rudius is able to observe other people that had similar issues to him. Like this is something that's repeatedly happened in the story. Like he looks at someone and he's like, damn, they remind me of myself. And then he helps them every single time. Like,
I mean, an alternative of what he could do here is, well, free her, so buy her, free her, and set her on her merry way. Absolutely no life spirit and absolutely no means of doing anything.
And she'll die.
Oh yeah, he Because he just frees her like in Game of Thrones, and then she gets herself back into slavery because she dies otherwise.
Yeah,
because she has nothing.
That was one of the smarter things that George R. R. Martin put in his books.
Yes.
Like, Daenerys, you're an idiot. You can't just change the people a core of how their culture works and not replace it with anything.
It's a direct counter to his opinion that other people like him. It's like, just free all the slaves, and then what? What happens to them after
Right, now
that?
they're free, now they're unemployed, now they have no direction, they have no teachers, they have no food.
They have no house, no food, no job, no money, nothing. Now what? Now they get back into slavery because they have nothing else.
Or they become criminals,
Or they die because they have nothing.
Yeah, so they're all so you invent a alm system where you become the state that gives them their stuff. So they have to do your bidding, because if you're upset with them, you probably won't give them stuff anymore. So they are your slaves now. And you need to pay for that somehow, which means you tax the people that do work more. So they're going to be pissed. And that also means that they're technically your slaves, because, you use them to increase your resources. And technically, the working people are the slaves of your social security cases now, because they get your social security cases get paid by the taxpayers. Man, that's fucked up. I'm so glad we don't have a system like that.
Oh no!
All right, we're nearing the 2-minute mark. Hopefully, he has a huge advertisement at the end.
Because Rudy buys a slave and she lives a better life. Therefore, owning people as property is good,
yes.
Actually. Now, I think it would be very silly to say that no slaves were content or lived from their point of view decent.
Oh, she's jumping up and down. Oh my God, she's actually happy. I guess that's a horrible, horrible thing, even though she's still a slave.
You know what this technically is? This is parallel to taking custody of a child.
And you're
because at some point she'll be old enough. Yes. At some point she'll be of age, and I can completely foresee that if she wants to be free, he'll set her free.
Yeah, it's like Shinoba is not a bad person, especially now that he's with Rudy, and I can totally see that when he doesn't need her anymore, he could say, "So, and now you're free. You can do what you want." I could even see her actually choose to stay as like his employee or something.
Well, she'll become a teacher for the next generation of these
or that, yes. Like
workers.
she becomes like what's it called? Like she becomes like almost like a maid for his family or something, and like teaches his children earth magic and things like that. Could be cool. That could be interesting.
Yeah, you're giving,
I could see her do that.
You're giving this girl not only life but a purpose. She's happy about it. She can do the thing that he can't. So he needs her. She needs him. This is a win-win for everyone involved. And this guy's saying, well, she's a slave, therefore it's evil. It's like...
Because legally, in the legalese paragraphs, it's called slavery, therefore this must not be done.
Because slavery, therefore evil. There's nothing evil
his problem
happening.
His problem is solely the word.
Exactly. There's nothing bad.
The evil double plus ungood word.
They're not doing anything cruel to her. They're not bad people. She's not a bad person. She's not hurting anyone. They're not hurting her.
She's literally happy right now. And he's saying, no, that's bad. You shouldn't be happy. You should have died because you shouldn't have been bought. It's like, what?
Like, would he want her to kill her? Is that the solution that would make him happy?
That's what I'm dying. That's what I'm dying to ask him. Like,
you didn't have to go to the slave. He did not have to go to the slave pen, and she would have died. Is that okay with you? This beautiful little girl who's happy to have a life?
Can we call him a callous child murderer?
In this case, no, but because it's not real. But you're looking at this jump, and she's really cute throughout the entire next episode. I haven't watched the latest episode, but she's just having a fun time, learning magic, and what's his name is like teaching her really strictly. You must think of the sculpture like this, and she's like, okay, writing notes down and taking pictures, and it's really funny. So it goes away from this serious tone, which it never had, into this side character joke, which is for because the whole scene with the cat girls is a joke and blah blah blah. He is misconstruing the tone, the plot, the point that this was taken, and he's like blowing it up to in a proportion that has nothing to do with the narrative after that, as if this is a horrific, oh my god, a little girl's a slave, oh the humanity. And it's like, no, she's eating, she's sleeping, she's alive, she's got the color back in her face, she's learning.
She's literally only a slave in name.
Yeah,
that's what he doesn't want to acknowledge. Like, in all intents and purposes, she isn't a slave right now. She's just with them. She has like a little job that she has to do every now and then, which is making the figures, and then she can do what she wants. She has a place
like doing
to sleep.
homework
She has
or helping in
friends.
the household.
Yes, this is basically like homework.
Okay.
I reject his cultural imperialism.
True.
Okay. We're near the 2-minute mark. I honestly don't think it's going to get any worse. This is.
I reject my slavery, Jojo.
Come on, you know, this is the last 2 minutes are always super insane.
Well, that's what I mean. I don't think it's going to get any worse. This is going to be consistently dumb.
Oh, his final arguments are so bad.
Okay.
It's so bad.
If your entire family line has been slavery and all your life has been slavery, that becomes your normal. So when the bar is raised even an inch, you end up appreciative.
This is not normal for her. She's smiling. She's happy. She's clothed. She has a bed. She eats. When she was not, I don't know how young she was at that point. I don't know how useful she was as a 4-year-old or 3-year-old. She didn't have a good memory of those times, those years. Look
Good
at
for
this.
her.
Look at this. She's surrounded by fountains and a green grass in the sunlight with a white dress, and she's not doing any forced labor. Obviously.
So I quickly looked it up. So Juliet was 5 when Rudius bought her.
Wow.
So she would have died. So a 5-year-old would have died if he didn't buy her. So
Yeah,
I'm curious if he
the
would be okay
5-year-old
with this.
can't sustain itself.
Yes.
But the argument that Rudy's slave is now living a better life feels like it removes the context of the decision to purchase her. Rudy was simply trying to get somebody to make figurines, and
What is your argument? Who cares why he bought her? She is better off now. If he just bought her on a whim, she is still better off. Even if he didn't even help her with her next meal, he could have.
Couldn't he do it for both reasons?
Yeah, but it's as if it's like you bought a slave, therefore you're evil. It's like, no, in this context, it's great.
Also, like I mentioned, it's like he literally didn't have any other options because, like, so Senova doesn't have his royalty status, so he can't hire anyone legally. People aren't allowed to stay in their dorms. The only people that are allowed to stay in the dorms are students or slaves. Those are the only people that can stay there.
This is like, this is like making a hard line on killing. Like, killing people is always 100% evil. Bad. You should never do it. Even if someone's trying to kill you, you should never, ever kill someone else. Because this is my maxim. I believe this. And you're like, okay, then you're dead. You just died because you didn't want to stop the person trying to kill you.
This is what I said too. It's like, I mean, if this is your stance, that's fine. But you have to acknowledge that you having this stance means that this little girl is dead. She's gonna die.
Yeah.
That is what your stance would entail. She dies because you're not allowed to buy her.
It's like these people try to be holier and more altruistic and enlightened and perfect than Buddhism. And in your example, Buddhism would fight back, and Buddhism would buy the girl.
Yes,
because
in their moral superiority, they're even more cruel than everyone else. Because I wouldn't let the girl die personally. I think that's fucked. But you are okay with it because it's a slave, and you shouldn't buy slaves.
Yeah, it's this whole. It's not even ideology. I was about to say it, but it's this whole mentality that the word and therefore practice, because I think it's evil, is evil, even though the narrative does not have any evidence of it being evil. Everything is the opposite of what he's saying. This is the problem with these people. Like it's as if they're not watching the show and they're projecting everything onto it that they think should happen.
I mean, he completely ignored all the character development that Rudy has said. So for all I know, he didn't watch it at all.
Yeah, the
and
first
he's just
season.
like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean,
Or just read something or watch clips or I don't know.
Yeah, and there's stories of Christians, Christian monks. I think it was Jesuits mainly in Japan. I think in early China as well. Well, early China. In China as well at the time, but I definitely know about Japan, where they would go around villages where the people were when they had excess children, they were selling them off or just throwing them out. Really, just putting them on the sidewalk to die. And those Christians went around, picked up the children or bought off the excess children, and founded orphanages. That's how the first orphanages got to Japan, because they didn't have that sort of system there. So they technically bought children, but that's because of that, those children lived and grew up into adults.
Well,
I mean, we technically, you brought this up earlier, we technically still buy children, because when you adopt a child, you pay for it. So
we're doing even worse things right now, where people have surrogate mothers and to in other countries, in far off countries, to order a child and then have it delivered to them.
Well,
that is fucked up.
I think if we asked Juliet, would you rather have died or make sculptures for the next few years, how would she answer? This is what's the word I'm trying to look for? It's like you're trying to defend the minority that you think is impoverished. So
he's speaking on her behalf, even though she would be completely against him. She's like, no, I like Rudius, I like Sonova, I like my new life.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I like making little dolls for people.
Yeah, imagine that girl making dolls. Who would have thought that she'd like doing that? Anyway, okay, we're at the 2-minute mark almost.
Soon it's gonna go crazy.
Yeah, this is it.
Instead of somebody and paying them a wage or a commission, he participates in the commodification of humanity.
What does that mean? What does that mean?
Why would she even need a wage? Like he's ignoring the fact that she doesn't need money because Senova is buying her everything she needs. He's paying for everything.
Is he saying he wants child slavery?
Yeah, do you want child labor? Should she be paid for this?
Yeah, do you want that?
Is that better? Is that better?
Should she have a job and get paid and have a little checklist or a time card?
Yeah, instead of a slave, it's the 5-year-old employee. Like what?
The more I learned about this decrepit ideology, the more baffled I am each time when these ideologues complain about the commodification of humanity, when it is them doing that at the point where they try to change the organ donation laws to opt-out systems from the standard that is an opt-in system, because everybody should help with their organ transplants and stuff, and basically that way your organs aren't even yours anymore, they belong to the collective.
Okay.
Which opens up further doors to corruption, as we see in China anyway. But
also he's just arguing blanket ideology now, because how was Juliet commodified?
Yeah, how? He's inventing
because she was bored.
I'm
because
sorry,
she was bored, like those Japanese orphans.
I thought this was going to be just a baseline of dumb, he's a dumb guy saying dumb shit. This has gotten worse. If you're not,
I warned you.
If he's now saying crap like this, commodification, whatever that even means, you may as well argue anyone who has a job is commodifying humans, or start a business. You're commodifying.
It's a dehumanizing act. That's what he means.
I mean,
you're just that you just become a number, not
go ahead, Whisp.
It means that the girl is just a number. She's just a tool. She's just a furniture. Which is exactly how socialism treats humans. How socialism sees them.
Even though they made a big point about giving her a proper name.
Yeah.
Yeah. What I was gonna say is, aren't they technically in a commune? Shouldn't he like this?
Oh, because it's
the relevant part is Rudius treats her like a human being. Not like a commodity.
Yeah, he treats her like her own person. He even gave her a name.
clothing.
He's
food.
arguing blanket ideology, like it doesn't even apply here.
Yeah, there's arguments for and against slaves, and I think even Sowell does this when he talks about the slave trade. They were better off in most cases being a slave. Not to say slavery was a ethical good, but you survived. If you had a good owner, you were treated right. You had good working conditions because obviously the owner wants to take care.
You had a good owner. You essentially you didn't need money because your owner bought everything for you. You were essentially having a good life.
You were being taken care of.
You did a bit of work, and everything else is free. You don't have to do anything besides a bit of work.
If you're the type of person who doesn't want to think about anything, that's perfect for you. There are people like that, strangely enough.
And again, he disregards, he keeps lying about what the author said about what Rudius thinks. Rudius never said that Rudius thinks that slavery isn't evil. It's not what he said. He said that some slaves are not inherently unhappier as slaves, which is a fact. He cannot deny this. It's true. I'm sorry, it's objective. You can't argue. It's true.
Okay.
Pockets of slave owners and propagating the slave trade when there were multiple other options. Rudeus Greyrat.
Such as.
It's just not a.
What are the other options?
They talked about this is a whole scene before they decide to go to the slave pens. They say, "What do we do? How do we solve this problem? Being on a school campus within the academy, what are the rules?" Slavery.
What should he do?
Yeah.
What should he do? He either buys a slave because those are the only ones that are allowed, or he has nothing. He just does nothing, I guess.
Yeah, he can't.
Or he frees the slaves and starts a war. It's
yeah, he can't. He can't hire a teacher that would go against the academy. They have their own teachers. You can't have external people come in.
Shinoba doesn't have his royalty status, so he can't hire maids and things.
Right.
So, what do you want him to do?
So the best option was to save someone's life and have them work for you and treat them with respect and dignity, and they did that.
Give money to the slave trade.
Oh no, you're freeing a person from their bondage. What a horrible person you are.
Yeah, and our combination of completely open borders and other policies enables nothing else but human sex and child trafficking.
Oh yeah.
Also, when he really wants to make the point of, you're giving money to the slavers. Okay, you own a PC, you own a smartphone. You literally give money to the people that run sweatshops. So
you give money to the people. You give money to the people that make 5 to 8 year old children dig up cobalt with their hands.
Yes, you can't make this argument if you own any of these things. You participate in the same thing, but you blame Rudius because reasons.
Yeah,
he needs to be better than you? ?
He's basically a meat eater who complains that people eat meat.
He's unironically arguing that Rudius should be a better person than himself. Which is pretty interesting.
That is a common theme. That is a common theme.
He demands him to be better than he is. That's quite interesting.
Yeah.
Good person. And when the story has the themes it's trying to go for, I feel very, very hesitant to actually get invested in him as a character or enjoy the themes of the story when there is such a massive walking, talking contradiction in its protagonist.
What is the contradiction, sir?
What is the contradiction?
Yeah, what is he even talking about?
Also, again, he can say this. I feel the complete opposite. All of these things are very interesting. They're very immersive. They're very intriguing. They're very good stories, very good characters. It's great.
This was the problem I had with his upvote and downvote ratio. I was like, why is it 80%? What's going on here? And the reason is he only has less than 5,000 views. This came out last week, so no one knows this guy really. And
also, again, he bans people that disagree with him in the comments.
Or if I leave a comment and I say,
he has a pinned comment that if you try to argue, for example, against his point with the 30-year-old thing, he will ban you.
Oh my God! I just saw that. Read this before commenting. I will be discussing the most popular responses to this video. 1, but Rudy isn't actual 30. 2, is it not a redemption story? it is an XYZ story. 3, you should have had someone more neutral edit the script. That's a horrible thing.
Wow.
That's a big thing to say. 4, you twisted things to fit your narrative. Oh. 5,
Well, he did.
you are biased. You are not being objective. Yes. 6, do you have a problem with all dark subject matter? Yes. And that's it. That's crazy. Like, that's pretty much the general sentiment of the style of arguments I would have. But the bias is so like he's so in it. He's just waiting in this pool of bias. It's like, no one can let me leave this pool. I'm not getting out. Like, dude.
Now imagine children go to school and this guy is their teacher.
Oh. Unless he's teaching physics, then I don't know.
Children. Look, you could even make the argument you would want someone like Rudius to save the children from someone like him.
Yeah.
Because like Rudius,
I think they'd be safer with Rudy than with this guy.
Rudy
Yes.
has his own problems that have nothing to do with taking care of a 6 or a 5-year-old girl for his friend. Like, that's not even an issue. He's like, yeah, no problem. We'll take care of her. Like, yeah, we'll do it. I'll feed her. I'll clothe her. No, actually, he doesn't have to do that, does he? It's all in, what's his face?
Shinoba does all that.
Yeah, it's his job to take care of this girl. Yeah, he's not his responsibility. He's like, yeah, I'll do it.
Go ahead and get 4 common responses to any and all Mushoku Tensei criticism out of the way
Oh,
now.
here we go.
So he should just wait until he's 18 to have meaningful relationships then? Yes. Oh, is he only...
Why?
With whom?
Why?
And
With
here's
whom?
the thing that I was waiting for. So he says he should wait until he's 18 to have any sexual relationships. Okay. So first of all, that's an arbitrary number because we already established that 15 is the adult age in this world. But let's humor this point.
Nobody gives a shit in this world.
He should be 18. Okay. So when he should be 18, he would still be 40 something based on
Close
how
to
he
50.
views the character, or close to 50. So how exactly is that better based from his own viewpoint? So he's 50 and he fucks 18-year-olds. That's fine because why? Like, that's his perspective, by the way. Like, his perspective is he should be 18, but also he is his previous age. So he's now 50, and he has sex with an 18-year-old. And that's okay, because he says so. That's an insane argument.
Or should he, when his body is 18, have sex with a 50-year-old because he's mentally 50, alleged?
Yeah, it's like based on how he mentioned it in this short sentence, he just means it as, when he's 18 in this world, he's allowed to have sex with other 18-year-olds. But based on the fact that he views it as a 50-year-old, because he viewed it as a 30-year-old previously, then wouldn't that still be wrong with his own ideology?
It's purely materialistic. It's just about a number.
It's just an arbitrary number, and it doesn't even make sense with his own logic. This is what I meant. Like, this is insane.
It's just authoritarian to forbid him basically doing anything because he is a fucked up outlier that doesn't fit the system. Not very inclusive.
It's a dumb response. Let's keep going.
Adults as a child? No. Do not be intentionally obtuse. People do not know he is an adult, so they would be creeps too. Huh.
Wait, what? Why would they be creeps if they don't know what's in his brain? That doesn't make any. What does that have to do with anything?
He's
means
trying
that
to say, like, you think that this one is valid. Like, he's saying that it would still be wrong if, like, Rudius as a kid would have, like, sex with an adult, even if the mental ages match, because that would make the other character Peter, like, he does have a point there. But again, with the previous point, he argues the same thing. Because he argues for 50-year-old Rudius to have sex with an 18-year-old.
Right, but they're both consenting, so I don't see the problem there. It's
like, from his point of view, it would be a problem.
Because
or at least it should be if he's consistent.
Yeah, because he's mentally 40 or 30, but said partner is also physically 30 or 40 and a female or whatever. That would be bad.
Is what he's saying, yes.
I'm just like, what's the difference? If you want Rudius to be a certain age, then why is that? Why can't the mate be whatever necessary age? That's stupid. He just contradicted himself.
Yes.
Like, what's
He did.
Rudius must be 18. Everyone else, no, it doesn't matter. Like, why? Why not? It's just, what the fuck? What does that even mean? Like, what the mental age of Rudius has to match the 18-year-old body, or be, I don't know. The 18-year-old body has to be at that stage.
He argues it's fine if he's 18 and then starts sleeping with people, which again, with his own logic, means he's 50. So
This is so weird.
This is why I mentioned early on that like this view of like seeing him as the old age is insane when you don't set a line, because now he says arbitrarily that he should be 18, but like again, he's gonna keep getting older just naturally. He's gonna be like 30 in this world, and then he's like 80 in reality or something. Like what? This is insane.
Well, it simply means he only can shag elves.
Oh my God.
It does kind of mean that, or like the demons that go like to 200 or something.
Unless they look like 12.
Yeah, like he's not allowed Roxy either because she looks too young, even though she's 40. So
yeah. Oh God, let's not bring that up.
Worked. You can't truly appreciate great Japanese media. If being a tourist means I don't like pedophiles and don't like slavery, then call me a tourist.
You are a tourist.
You are a tourist.
You don't know what you're talking about, sir.
You're 100% a
Taking the
tourist.
moral high ground means that I don't like pedophiles and
Oh, you know what? I could end it right here. As soon as I see anything about morality, and he's going to say, I am morally superior to you, not even literally, just to imply it, yeah, we could call this guy a jerk. He is full of himself, wasting our time. He is doing this to get an ego rub for whatever. And then the fact that you showed me his comment that was pinned, I'm like, oh boy.
Yeah, we could go through the pinned comment if you want.
I already listed the 6 questions, so I'm happy with that. But we could stop right here if you guys are okay. This is dumb. This is really dumb. I didn't think it would get any dumber, but this is like, I'm morally superior. Look at this icon. Doesn't it mean I'm right? Look at this smiley face and the thumbs up sign. We are dealing with children in a different way. I had to deal. What's that guy we talked to regarding Griffin? I can't remember his name. Griffith. He replied to me on Twitter about the pronoun thing that happened with Starfield, and he would explain himself. And I'm like, "Are you, like this? Like this is the mentality. They don't want to engage, or if they want to talk to you, they don't want to listen to you. They just want to say their bit and think they're morally superior, or they've won something."
Oh, we lost Wisp.
We lost Wisp. Oh, too
Couldn't
bad.
take it anymore. I don't know.
No, well, it probably went to bed. But anyway, yeah, this guy, it's videos like this. I just want to do a reply video, and I'm like, do I really want to sit through all that crap again that we already covered?
I mean, it would be pretty funny, but
It would be hilarious. Every few seconds, I'd be like, oh, here we go again. Oh, here we go again. So
it's like
yeah,
almost every sentence is something to argue against. It's quite funny
yeah. It's as if
how he manages that.
It's as if he didn't listen to that fourth point where it's like you should get an impartial or neutral editor to your script because you're horrifically stupid. And I hate calling people stupid, but it's just like I don't know what else to call them. And what does
I
this
think
have
it's appropriate here.
What does this have anything to do with the redemption? Like, what is he? Where did he start with this? Like, how did he get from A to B? Like, oh, is the story a redemption story or not? It's like, well, you're going into slavery and magical pedophilia or whatever mental age. Like, what are you talking about? Anyway, let's see if we have any memes. Hopefully, we'll have a
I don't know.
yeah, some sort of high note we can end this at. 'Cause this is really, really pathetic. Okay, here we go. Cyberfrog, what do you got for me? That is... I don't know. What anime is that? Is that the same one? I don't think so.
Let me see.
It's a
Streamings.
blonde girl, red dress, looking at tickets? What is that? Flyer?
That's Rudy's mom, I think.
Yeah, that's Rudy's mom.
Oh, and that's his father in the
Yes.
foreground. Okay. Just a random picture. I was like, what does it have to do with anything? I don't know. Anyway, Rudy's help for kids just came by and made me
Oh,
change.
the things in the previous image, the pictures say child support.
Yeah, there's a divorce document and a child support document in that first image.
Oh. Jesus. All right. They said I wasn't dressed family friendly. Did I mess up? I don't. Oh, this is when she's trying to be the guardian figure. I don't understand this fan service stuff. No, it's fine, Ghislaine. I can still come to this. Okay. And there's Ghislaine in her amazing chest covering. Okay. Elf, 6K Lolicon, 77K cheating, 15K big boobs, 12K. Maybe Ghislaine. Femdom, 20K harem. Is there a harem? I don't think so. I'm trying to think. I don't remember that. 9K FFM threesome. I gotta think. No, I don't remember that. Group 82. What is group? Elf 64K. Shotacon 20K. Which character is that?
That's Fitz,
that's
I
Cliff.
think.
Cliff.
Oh,
I
not
think his
Cliff,
name
yeah.
is.
Yeah, Cliff.
Yeah, that's true. Because how old is Ellen Elise? She's pretty fucking old.
Oh, right. That's the guy. That's the guy who falls in love with Elise or Elise.
Yeah. And
It has the
she's-
NTR tag because she's gonna continue
she's
having sex with other men.
She needs
You
to,
get
or
to
she'll
do a
die.
fight
Yeah,
over
you're right.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we have our lovable, huggable guy who enjoys sculptures a bit too much.
Emotionless sex and sleeping. So,
I think humping a statue is pretty different, but okay.
oh,
Anyway.
Whisp is back.
Hey, Wisp.
Hello.
We're on the wonderful world of memes. If you care to look, this is Paul. This is Kiara. Keep them away from your children. Well, different stories, man. Anime is for pedos. Anti-Trump journalist Dr. Pizza arrested for child sex crime. Oh my god.
That's the guy we were talking about.
Slave harem in the labyrinth of the other world is anime with dog girl in it. Is that what it's called?
Oh yeah, that's the one. Yes.
It
that's the one.
looks like that's a real. I've read the manga. That does not look like any page of the manga I've ever seen.
I think that's a cover of one of the volumes or something.
Maybe. It usually has what's her name? The dog girl on it, but yeah, okay. Fair enough. He has the sword, so that's the right one. And that's it. Oh, thank goodness. Wow, that
Was horrible.
that was one of the dumbest readings of an anime. I mean, I understand that slavery is a sensitive issue, but once you watch the show, you go, yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. Maybe I would argue the first season, the first season's issue with the perversion of Rudius would be a bigger issue than what we saw in that one episode. I would say is a stronger argument can be made because it doesn't make you comfortable. It's a man trapped in a baby's body and all that jazz. But having slavery in a fantasy world, there's nothing wrong with that. That's a story. You can have things you don't like in a story. That's why we read stories, to bring these stories or bring these elements of a story to light so you can address them properly. And it was addressed. It was talked about. And it was shown that, yeah, slavery is bad, but buying a slave is good. So there's nothing wrong in that context from Rudius, that buying that slave was a bad thing. It was actually a very good thing. And he saved someone's life. And if you see that as a bad thing, there is something fundamentally wrong with your ability to think critically or analytically. That if you do not see a smiling, happy girl and go, if only she was a corpse, that would be a better story, then you're missing the point, you're missing context, you're missing tone, and that was just one plot point, and then it's like a side character thing. It's like something in the background that happens. And I'm sure we'll see more of her in very small context within the narrative. I'm going to go watch the next episode that came out yesterday. It is a fantastic anime. It's one of my favorite of the year, if not the best of the year. And I would recommend watching the first season, of course. But the animation's quality, the sound is, the music is beautiful, and the characters are great, as we've discussed over and over again. So it is probably the best thing to watch. Maybe if you like, what's the other one? Jujutsu Kaisen, I think, is done. I don't know if they finished the second season.
The second season just aired, I think. Just started.
I've been watching it the past few weeks, but
Shibuya arc, I think,
or something like that.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's second core or what. But
yeah, they did
Yes.
yeah, they took like 3 or 4 weeks off.
Yeah. I saw they changed the name to Mushoku Tensei 0 because it's like a going back in time series of episodes, and
Yeah, it was like a prequel about I don't even Gojo. I think
how he got his abilities heightened up, and then the latest episode was just a gigantic recap of like 8 or 9
Was it
episodes.
the mid-season episode?
Yeah, you know when Neon
I hate
Genesis did
those.
that, they had it's just a filler episode where they have 10 seconds from one episode and then 20 seconds from another, and they just keep adding it up. That's what happened with the last episode of Jujutsu Kaisen. Anyway, I'm not that big of an anime geek. I only watch a few things, so it's yeah, that's all I really know. Anyway, guys, wow, classic Smudcast viewing. This was everything I hate or dislike watching if I were to watch a random YouTuber. And I'm glad we got it. I'm glad it's an anime one, because anime is one of those beautiful things that everyone should enjoy. There's something for everyone. Even the idiots. And I'm going to call him an idiot because that's what he called himself on his Twitter handle, so it's okay to call him... was it idiot or stupid? I can't remember what it was. It's fine. I want to be accurate here. I don't want to miss ad hominem here. Let's see what he said. Dumb guy on YouTube with 10k subs. Yeah, he is a very, very dumb guy. Not just a dumb guy. He has proven to us his knowledge and comprehension and his bias makes him dumb. So thank you, AsarathaHS, whatever that means, and your dumb brain. Thank you. Have yourself a good night, guys. Talk to you soon. Have a great. Bye.
Night.
Bye-bye.